Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Jake's world had been shattered once before, a betrayal that left scars he thought were long buried. His ex-wife had taken their daughter and turned Ashley against him, leaving Jake to rebuild his life from the ruins she left behind. But nothing could have prepared him for today. Sitting across from him, in the very bar he'd built from the ground up, was Ashley, now a young woman. His heart pounded as memories flooded back, each one tainted by the lies his ex-wife had planted. He fought to steady himself, and all he could manage was a broken whisper. "Ashley, is it really you?" She hesitated, her expression a mix of anger and confusion, as if she too was piecing together a twisted story. Jake realized then, with a sickening clarity, that the betrayals in his past weren't finished with him yet. "Hey there, boss." "Morning," Jake replied. "So when did noon start being morning?" Garrett said while checking his watch. Jake smiled. This was their usual routine. Since Jake was the owner, he often arrived later than the rest of the staff. Garrett, his longtime manager, opened the place at 10 o'clock to prepare for the busy lunch hour that started at 11:30. Jake usually showed up around noon, and Garrett loved to tease him about it. Although Jake was his boss, they were also good friends. Their wives were close, and they trusted each other like brothers. "Did the food order come in yet?" Jake asked. "Yeah, the truck showed up about an hour ago." "Great. Did you check the quality of the meat this time? The last delivery had some issues." "It's all good," Garrett replied confidently. He had worked for Jake for almost 10 years, starting as a bartender and then becoming a manager. He paid close attention to every detail Jake entrusted him with. Most times, Garrett needed no reminders. He just handled things. Jake appreciated that, even if he tried to catch Garrett by surprise. Jake smirked. "I'll get you one of these days. That will wipe that smile off your face." Garrett laughed, but then suddenly looked serious. "Oh, I wanted to ask, would you and your band perform Saturday instead of Friday? Benny Rodriguez and his car club want their monthly meetup here on Friday." Jake raised his eyebrows in surprise. "But don't they usually hold it at Stibbins?" he asked, mentioning another popular local bar. "They do, but they want to change this time. And when Benny asked, I couldn't say no. It's good for business. They enjoy coming out." Jake thought about it. He had tried for years to get Benny's car club to come to his place, but they always turned him down. And now, it had finally happened. "Wait," Jake said. "You already booked them, so why ask me first?" He knew the answer, but enjoyed this playful back and forth. Garrett chuckled, ready to respond when one of the servers approached with a question. Most day-to-day questions were simple, yet anyone in food service knows that there are no silly questions. Jake smiled to himself and let Garrett get back to work. As the owner of the Bacon Bar and Grill, Jake didn't usually manage the daily operations. Garrett and another manager, Karen, handled that well. Jake's role was more to oversee everything, ensuring that all staff, including Garrett and Karen, were doing their jobs. Oh, and he got to play music too, one of the perks of owning the bar. He loved having a place to play with his band. Jake looked around the bar, taking in the busy scene. The lunch rush was in full swing, with the small space filled with people. Though it wasn't large, a 14-seat bar and 25 tables, it was all his. Watching his staff move efficiently filled him with pride. Years of hard work had led to this moment. He was happy. He had his own business, a wonderful wife, and 2 stepkids he cherished. Life was good, but it hadn't always been that way. "Hey, Jake!" Someone called from across the room, interrupting his thoughts. Jake turned to see Casper, the drummer of his band, sitting with some of his friends. He walked over to Casper, but halfway there he noticed a young woman, maybe 18 or 19, sitting alone. For a moment he felt a strange sense of familiarity, but quickly shook it off and moved on to Casper. "What's this about moving the gig to Saturday?" Casper asked. A few people at nearby tables turned to listen, but soon returned to their chats. Jake laughed. Casper had a wild reputation, being the only unmarried member of the band who always seemed to have someone new around. Despite it, he was a fantastic drummer and a loyal friend. "Garrett already told you?" Jake said. "Yeah, so what's going on?" Jake chuckled. "Changed your plans for the week, huh?" Casper looked shocked for a moment, then burst into laughter. Jake and the others joined him. "Can't slip anything by you, Jake," Casper said. "You're easy to read, Casper. We all know you're in it for the fun." This sent the whole table laughing again. "Hey, who can blame me?" Casper added. "People love drummers, but moving it to Saturday messes with my plans. I had someone I was supposed to meet." "Why?" asked Sean, one of Casper's friends. "What do you mean, why?" Casper looked around, realizing no one got it. "The person I was going to meet told me she had a little surprise planned before the show. Now that won't work." The table erupted in laughter except for Casper. "Why can't she come Saturday?" Sean asked, amused. "Yeah, Casper," Jake nudged, knowing Casper's answer would be entertaining. "Seems simple enough." "Because Cindy, my Friday night date." "Miss C," Sean interjected. "Yeah," Casper replied, rolling his eyes at the laughter. "Cindy mentioned she could only meet before I play because I would be too tired afterward." Out of all the responses they expected, that was the most surprising. What made it even more shocking was how serious Casper sounded when he said it. After a few seconds of silence, laughter broke out. Sean fell onto the floor, catching his breath, while Jake stumbled back and bumped into a table, causing a drink to spill. Jake was laughing so hard he could barely apologize, but Garrett quickly came over to help while a busboy cleaned the mess. Once Jake calmed down, he offered to pay for the man's meal, which helped smooth things over. Jake turned back to the group as Sean said, "Casper, what does that have to do with anything? You're not making sense." Jake chuckled at the thought that he had the same question. "How am I not making sense?" Casper asked, confusion clear on his face. "What Sean means, Casper, is that you should invite this Cindy girl to the show on Saturday while asking your Saturday girl to hang out on Friday," Carl explained gently. Casper thought for a moment, then smiled. "Oh, that could work." Jake shook his head. "Okay, everyone, I need to get back to work." In a playful tone, he added, "Can you do me a favor, Sean and Carl?" "Sure," Sean replied, and Carl nodded. "Make sure Casper knows that today is Wednesday and that Saturday is 3 days from now, not 2. He turned to walk away. From behind him, he heard more laughter as Casper said, "I know the days of the week, you know." Jake laughed to himself. As he walked to the kitchen, he thought about how much he liked Casper. The guy had one thing on his mind, but he was definitely funny. As the lunch rush slowed down, Jake found an empty table to review the finances. He was trying to figure out how to lower costs on some pricey items when he felt like someone was watching him. He looked up and saw the same girl still at her table. She was staring right at him. And when their eyes met, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu. It was odd that she had been sitting there for almost 2 hours. Why did she look at him like that? Why did she seem so familiar? This was the second time they had connected with their eyes, and that strange feeling faded quickly. Wanting to understand why she seemed familiar, he took a moment to observe her. She was about 5'7" inches or 5'8", with messy, shoulder-length brown hair. Her brown eyes stood out against her olive skin. She was slender but seemed healthy. Dressed in a white shirt and jeans that could use a wash, she was attractive for someone in her late teens. At 38, he felt quite a bit older than her. After looking at her a little longer, he turned his gaze back to the table and momentarily forgot about the paperwork in front of him. He searched his memory for where he might have seen her before. "Boss." Huh. Jake snapped back to reality and noticed Garrett standing there with printouts of the daily sales. Most restaurant owners waited until the end of the day to check their totals, but Jake liked to do it multiple times during the day. It was a good way to keep track of how things were going and decide if any changes were needed. "Looks like we did better than expected. We're up about 10% from our goal," Garrett said proudly. As the day manager, he was proud of a successful lunch, which also reflected well on Karen if dinner was strong. Jake had learned long ago that any drop in numbers would come back to him. "Good," Jake replied distractedly as he looked back at the girl. "So when do I get my raise?" Garrett asked. Jake knew this was coming. It always followed a good sales day. He focused back on Garrett, who wore a familiar grin. Jake smirked. "So you're saying that when sales go up, you should get more money? Is that correct?" "Well, yeah." "Okay, then when sales are down, do I get to take away your pay?" "Nope. You know it doesn't work that way." "Oh, really? Why not?" "Double standards, boss. Didn't you figure that out yet?" Jake tried to stay serious but failed miserably, and they both burst out laughing, knowing Jake paid Garrett well. This playful teasing was a big part of their friendship. When the laughter faded, Jake said, "Seriously, that's great news. I was just looking through the books." He pointed to the papers in front of him. "Our profit margins have improved on several items. Our food costs are right where they need to be, but there's always room for more improvement." Garrett sat down, grabbed the papers in front of Jake, and began looking at them. "Yeah, I see what you mean." He pointed to another set of figures. "It looks like the overpouring problem has been fixed." "Yeah, and don't you dare claim credit for it. That's all Karen." Garrett chuckled. "Me? Take credit for someone else's work? Never." Jake laughed. "Okay, wise guy. Is the kitchen getting ready for dinner?" "No, they're just having a casual chat back there." "Good. Then you can go join them. Now get out of here before I give you something real to do." With a grin, Garrett got up and went about his tasks as Jake's attention returned to the girl. This time, when he looked at her, she wasn't looking back. Jake had the chance to watch her closely without feeling awkward. She seemed familiar, but he couldn't figure out where he knew her from. Suddenly, she looked up and caught him staring. When their eyes met, he noticed a hint of nervousness on her face. This was unusual. Jake felt uncertain about what to think. A few moments passed, and he decided he had to go talk to her. He stood up and walked over. They kept eye contact, but when she realized he was getting closer, her nervousness deepened, surprising him. He didn't want to frighten her. Yes, he was a big guy at 6'2" and around 220 pounds with some tattoos, but he thought he looked friendly and approachable. Still, he needed to find out who she was, so he continued on. "Excuse me," Jake said kindly when he reached her table. "Mind if I sit here?" She hesitated at first, seemingly wanting to speak but unable to. After a few awkward moments, she gently nodded. "Thanks," he said with a smile as he took a seat. "I'm Jake. What's your name?" She just looked at him, and he could tell she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Realizing he would have to lead the conversation, he pressed on to discover more. "Are you from this area?" he asked. She paused briefly and then shook her head. "All right, not local." He needed to ask something else. "Do I know your parents?" This surprised her. Her eyes widened, and her expression shifted, making Jake pull back a bit. Clearly, this was a sensitive topic, so he decided to try a different approach. With a sincere smile, he said, "I'm sorry if that upset you. That wasn't my goal. Have you eaten yet? I was wondering if you'd like to join me for lunch." Once again, she didn't reply with words, but nodded. Jake smiled in reassurance and called over Sophie, the server. "What's up, boss?" Sophie asked, her red hair catching the light. "My friend and I are hungry. Can you please get me the buffalo chicken bacon sandwich, no fries? And for her—" He looked at the girl expectantly. He was hoping she'd say something. He suspected she was just shy. She finally answered. "I'll have a burger if that's okay." "How about the bacon cheeseburger?" Sophie suggested. "It's fantastic. Just ask Jake." Jake laughed. "It really is. That's why we call it the Bacon Bar and Grill. Everything has bacon, and we think it's the best around." His playful tone made Sophie smile, and for the first time, the girl showed a small smile too, which made him pause. There was something familiar about that smile. Where had he seen it before? "Okay, I'll have that," she finally decided. "Do you want something to drink?" Sophie asked. Jake looked at the girl and motioned for her to order first. He wanted to encourage her to talk. She glanced at him, unsure, until she realized he was waiting for her to go first. She looked surprised for a moment, but then her expression brightened again, as if she understood his encouragement. That made Jake chuckle, and she responded with a laugh. Then it struck him. That laughter. He recognized it from long ago. It wasn't just this girl. It reminded him of someone from his past who had deeply influenced his life. He looked into her eyes, so similar to his own. And then it hit him. His heart raced and tears formed in his eyes. This couldn't be true. It couldn't be happening. He didn't know how long he sat there lost in thought, but it was Sophie who broke the silence. "You okay, boss? You look like you've just seen a ghost." Jake pulled his gaze away and looked at Sophie. His voice trembled as he said, "Could you give us a moment, please?" She nodded quickly and walked away, concern on her face. Jake turned back to the girl, and when their tear-filled eyes met again, he saw that she understood he had figured it out. He cleared his throat. "Ashley, is that you?" She nodded. She tried to hold back her tears, but soon they began to flow. Jake couldn't contain his tears either. They streamed down his face, but he didn't mind. He was in front of Ashley, his daughter. No longer the little girl he had lost years ago, but now a young woman. Yet as he looked at her, he could still see glimpses of the girl he missed when she was just 3. He couldn't believe it. He had so much to say. He had dreamed of this moment countless times, so now, facing her, he felt at a loss for words. With tears still falling, he finally managed to say, I can't believe it's you." She gazed back at him, seeming just as speechless. The silence lingered as tears fell. Jake decided to speak again. "It's so good to see you. You have no idea how long I've been wishing for this moment." Her expression changed suddenly. "Oh, you wished for this, did you? Then why didn't you ever come for me?" That question caught him off guard. Surely she knew the truth. He looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of dishonesty, but found none. With a slight shake of his head and a resigned sigh, he knew this wouldn't be easy. His ex-wife had probably twisted things to fit her own story. He needed to figure out where to begin, but first, he had to understand what Ashley believed. "Ashley, sweetie," he began gently. "It seems we need to talk about many things, but first, I want to make one thing clear. I never would have wanted to let you go." Ashley stared at him, suspicion in her eyes. She seemed to be wrestling with new truths that shook her understanding of everything. "I don't understand," she said. "What do you mean?" Jake sighed. "It would help if you told me what you heard about me. Then we can go from there." She looked at him, her expression reminding him of her mother, which sent a chill through him. He thought to himself, she looks so much like her mother. Hopefully she doesn't have her temper. Now that he knew who she was, he couldn't believe it had taken him this long to recognize her. "Fine," she finally said. "Where do you want me to start? Tell me what you've been told about me." "I was told that you hurt Mom and tried to take me away, so Mom asked Kevin for help, and he said she should file for divorce and ask for full custody." It was clear by her tone that she doubted everything she had been told, trying to make sense of her past. Jake found her struggle intriguing and wanted to help her piece things together, but he had to be careful. If he rushed or made a wrong move, it could make things worse. She had come to see him for a reason, though it was clear she was hiding some of the truth by the state of her clothes and hair. He didn't want to ruin this chance. He looked her in the eyes softly and said, "Ashley, with how you're acting, it seems you don't really believe everything you just said." He paused, watching her reaction. She looked surprised, her cheeks blushing. He quickly added, "It's smart to question it all. Most of it isn't true." Again he paused, recalling her words. "Well, almost all. Kevin did suggest that your mom file for divorce and ask for full custody. But that's all." At that moment, Sophie arrived with their food and drinks. She quickly put them down and said, "Excuse me, sorry for the interruption, don't mind me," before swiftly leaving. Jake looked down at his meal but realized he had lost his appetite. Across the table, Ashley was focused on her burger with hungry eyes. Something about that worried him. Her messy hair, her clothes, and now her hunger made it clear her situation wasn't good. He needed to find out what was happening. "How about we take a break from talking and eat? We can finish this conversation afterward. I'm really hungry," he suggested. Ashley nodded, smiling slightly, and began to eat with enthusiasm. Still, something felt off. She had been in the restaurant for over 2 hours. Surely she had eaten before. The way she was devouring the food didn't match that. He needed to ask without embarrassing her. "You know what?" he said, as if he remembered something important. "I need to check on something. I'll be right back. Will you be okay here?" Ashley just nodded, mouth full of food. Jake walked toward the kitchen where he saw Sophie talking with 2 other servers. When they noticed him, they froze for a moment. "What's up?" Garrett asked, breaking the silence. "Everything good?" Jake shrugged. "Yeah, I think so." "Look," he said, interrupting Sophie as she started to speak. "I don't have time to explain everything. That girl," he pointed behind him, "is Ashley, my daughter. I haven't seen her in 13 years. The reaction on their faces was a mix of shock, especially from Garrett, who knew Jake's story. Garrett opened his mouth to talk, but Jake raised his hand to stop him. I don't have time for details, but I need to ask Sophie something. Did she get any food earlier? He nodded toward Ashley. Not really. Just some fries and a water, Sophie replied. What's going on, Jake? Garrett pressed. But Jake wasn't really listening. Fries were the cheapest option, and water was free. This new information confirmed his suspicions and hurt his heart. Hey, Jake, Garrett said, trying to get his attention. Huh? Jake blinked, coming back to reality. What did you say? Garrett chuckled. You looked lost there. Jake sighed. Yeah, I'm just thinking a lot right now. Listen, he quickly shifted topics. I might leave early today. Can you let Karen know when she arrives? Garrett nodded. Sure thing. Thanks. Jake turned to leave. If I don't see you later, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, boss. Just then, he remembered something and paused. Oh, Sophie. Yes? Could you bring a vanilla bacon sundae for Ashley, please? He didn't wait for a reply and headed back to his daughter. By the time he returned to the table, Ashley was finishing her burger. It was clear she had been very hungry. Jake sat down, watching her eat, still in disbelief that this was Ashley sitting before him. Looking into her eyes, he felt a strong need to help her. He didn't know everything about her life, but he could see she needed help. When she looked up and noticed him watching, she blushed. He smiled back at her. She seemed happier than before. She glanced at the sandwich he hadn't eaten. I thought you said you were starving. He gave her a friendly smile. Oh, that's okay. Sometimes I just get busy and forget to eat. It happens, he said lightly. Are you still hungry? You can have it if you want. No, I'm full. You were right. The burger was really good. Jake's smile grew and she blushed even more. But not too full for this, Sophie interrupted, bringing over a big sundae for Ashley. Her eyes grew wide at the tall glass of vanilla ice cream piled high with nuts, sprinkles, caramel sauce, and bacon. Ashley looked from the sundae to Sophie and back again. Her smile made Jake's heart feel light. It was the first real smile he had seen from her in a long time. But then her smile faded. It looks really delicious, but I'm full, she said quickly. But her eyes gave away that she was not being completely honest. Jake sensed that she might be short on money and didn't want to say so. He had to think quickly. He didn't want to hurt her feelings. Yes, she was his daughter, and usually a father paying for his daughter's meal was perfectly normal, but this was a different moment. This is for both of you, Sophie added. It's huge. I can never finish one by myself. Jake shot Sophie a grateful look. She had picked up on what was happening without needing all the details. He turned back to Ashley. Their eyes met, and he could see she understood what he was getting at. He kept looking at her until a small smirk appeared on her face. It wasn't just Sophie who noticed these things. They held each other's gaze for a moment longer, then Jake grabbed a fork to dig into the sundae. Ashley joined him soon after. That was unexpected, Sophie whispered. Jake looked up, curious and his mouth full. Sophie met his gaze with a smirk. You don't know, do you? Jake turned to Ashley, searching for answers in her expression. She looked just as puzzled. That smirk, Sophie said, nodding at Ashley. It's just like yours. Jake turned back to Ashley, surprised to see the same look reflected on her face. Almost simultaneously, they both broke into matching grins. Sophie laughed. Wow, you even have the same grin. I can't believe it took you so long to see who she is. Have you seen her eyes? That made Jake laugh out loud, and Ashley giggled, making him feel warm inside. Then it clicked for him. Earlier he had noticed that smirk, but hadn't realized it was from him. Now he understood. Not only did she have his eyes, but she also shared some of his expressions. It was clear they were related. Boss? Thanks, Sophie, Jake said, returning to the moment. We're all good here. Sophie nodded and turned to Ashley. It was nice to finally meet you, Ashley. We've heard a lot about you from your dad. Ashley blinked, surprised, as she looked between Sophie and Jake. Finally, she nodded slightly. Nice to meet you too, Sophie. As Sophie walked away, she said, Hope we see you again. Ashley watched her leave for a bit, then turned back to Jake. His heart sank when he saw tears in her eyes. He reached out to take her hand. At first, she hesitated, but then let him hold it. Ashley, Are you okay?" With her eyes downcast and in a soft voice, she asked, "You talked about me?" Jake sighed. The light mood faded. They both knew they were avoiding a serious conversation. "Ashley," he said softly, "I've always thought about you." She looked up with tears in her eyes. He could see she wanted to trust him, but many years of hurt made it hard. She seemed to be wrestling with her feelings. He was curious about what had changed for her recently, but didn't want to push her too much. They held each other's gaze for a moment longer, then everything spilled out. "But why would Mom lie to me all these years?" She began to tremble as her body shook with sobs. Jake reacted instinctively. He stood and quickly wrapped her in a gentle embrace. He was surprised that she let him hold her, but he wouldn't let go. He let her cry into his chest, ignoring the curious stares from other diners. "Why?" Ashley cried softly. "Why would she lie to me?" He stroked her back and whispered comfort. "It's okay, sweetie. Let it all out, over and over again." Soon, Jake felt tears in his own eyes. It felt amazing to hold his daughter after so long. It broke his heart to think of how she had been misled. It wasn't fair to turn a child against her father with lies. The result of everything was a young woman who felt lost and sad, crying in his arms. He wanted to ease her pain, but he couldn't. All he could do was hold her close and try to comfort her. Suddenly his phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling them back to reality. It was ringing, and the tone told him it was his wife. He didn't want to break the moment, so he decided to ignore it. "Aren't you going to answer that?" Ashley asked softly, her voice muffled. "No," he replied simply, but it meant a lot. "You matter most to me right now. Everything else can wait." After a few more moments of tears, Ashley pulled back, wanting to be released. Jake hesitated but understood she needed space. Before letting go, he gently touched her head. She paused and looked up at him with wet eyes, searching for something. Jake looked back at her, and after a moment, she seemed to change her mind. Instead of stepping away, she tightened her embrace, holding him close again. "Why did she lie to me?" Ashley's voice was soft, but there was a determination in it. Now she was really seeking answers. Her question had shifted from wondering if she had been deceived to asking why it happened. That small change in wording revealed a deeper need to understand. Jake knew he needed to be truthful, but he didn't really have the answers. He had his thoughts, but his ex-partner had never explained why things had ended between them. Jake sighed, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm going to be honest," he said. "I don't really know why she did that. I've thought about it many times." Ashley pulled away, indicating she wanted to sit down. He opened his arms and she took her seat. Looking around, Jake noticed the table had been cleared. The ice cream sundae was gone, leaving just their drinks and a pile of napkins. He spotted Sophie and Joel at the bar, smiling at them. Sophie winked playfully before turning back to Joel, making Jake chuckle. "Sophie's really nice," Ashley mentioned, noticing the interaction. Jake handed her a napkin. "Yeah, she is. I'm lucky to have her on my team." "Thanks," Ashley said, wiping her eyes. "Can you tell me what happened? I really need to know." There was urgency in her voice. Jake nodded. "I'll share everything I know. You deserve to hear the truth." He took a sip of his drink and prepared himself for the conversation. "I met your mom in high school." "I know that part," Ashley interrupted. "You, Mom, and Kevin all went to school together. Mom dated Kevin, and then you two got together. You married her after graduation, and then I was born." She seemed to be recalling what she had heard over the years. "But after that, things got confusing." Jake nodded. "Did she tell you I played music?" "Yeah. She said you were really passionate about it." Jake chuckled. "Well, she wasn't wrong about that." Ashley looked surprised. He cleared his throat. "When your mom and I were together, she loved that I played music. I had bands from when I was 14. By high school, I was playing at local gigs. She came to all of them and cheered me on. When we graduated, she wanted to get married, so we did." "Did you love her?" Ashley asked, searching his face. "With all my heart. I adored her. I wanted to ask her to marry me, but I thought it was something adults did." He smiled a bit. "But when she brought it up, I got a ring the next day." Then his face grew serious. "What didn't make sense was that I thought she loved me too." Ashley frowned at that. "Things were wonderful after we married. I was working and playing music, and your mom was working at a spa. What happened next? Ashley asked, frustration creeping into her tone. Jake could see her struggling to understand. How did it all go wrong? I don't know, he responded honestly. Things were good. Your mom was expecting you. We were saving for a house. Jake paused, looking away for a moment. When you were born, everything seemed better. She was so happy. We both thought we were doing well. Ashley looked at him skeptically, trying to connect his story with what she had been told. Then, just before your 3rd birthday, everything changed, he said, looking down. One day, I came home and found your mom with someone I didn't trust. He felt he needed to choose his words carefully. Ashley frowned even more, not liking where this was going. It was shocking to see the woman I loved with someone I felt uneasy about, he continued. I knew they had a past, but I never thought they were still close. Jake searched for the best way to express his feelings. He sighed and said, Looking back, I can see that my reaction started everything that happened afterward. He paused, trying to see how she felt about this. Her face was unreadable, so he continued, I lost my temper. I confronted him, and that led to a fight. It didn't help that your mom tried to stand up for him. His face showed pain just thinking about it, a memory that still hurt. He remembered the moment Ashley reached for his hand. When he looked at her, he saw anger in her eyes, but it wasn't aimed at him. He felt that her anger was for both of them, hurt by someone they cared about. Feeling close to her, he held her hand tightly and kissed it softly. She smiled back at him. Any worries Ashley had about her mother faded away. Yes, she had her mother's looks, but she was still his daughter. She had a good heart, which meant a lot given her upbringing. Jake took a deep breath and went on. I was so mad and hurt that I stormed out, took some of your clothes, and went to my mom's house. Where was I when Mom and Kevin were together? She suddenly asked, sounding doubtful. In your room, he replied. That made Ashley frown. What happened after that? I really don't remember. It was all mixed up, but the next day the police came and arrested me for some accusations. Jake shivered at the memory. Finding his wife with another man was bad, but learning it was Kevin made it worse. He never saw it coming. Until that point, he thought everything was fine. Wow, that was a surprise, Ashley said sharply, pulling him from his thoughts. Jake looked at her confused. She seemed lost in her own mind. Ashley? He said gently, trying to get her attention. Snapping back, she exclaimed, She lied to me. She really lied to me. Jake reached across the table to comfort her. It hurt him to see her so troubled. I'm really sorry, sweetheart, he managed to say. She was angry, and he guessed what caused it. He knew his ex's version from the court papers, and it was clear that Ashley had heard that story. It amazed him how quickly she accepted his side. Not long ago, she had been skeptical, but now he saw her stitching together the truth from the lies. Slowly, everything was coming together. He was still curious about why she doubted what she'd been told. First, though, he needed to finish his own part of the story. Are you okay? He asked softly. Do you want to take a break? No, I need to know. She lied to me. She said you mistreated her and threatened to take me if she told anyone. She paused to see how he would react. Jake kept his face steady. He suspected this was his ex's side of things. She told me Kevin found out and tried to help her. And when you found out she told Kevin, you got really angry and took me away like you had threatened. He grimaced, knowing it was her version. Yes, that's definitely how she sees it. You knew that? Yes, I read it in the court papers. You can imagine how shocked I was when I read them. Court papers? He sighed again, feeling weary. Yes, court papers. After I was taken in, your mom, with Kevin's help, made many baseless claims. Besides the assault claims, she filed for divorce, saying he was cruel. Tears filled his eyes. If that wasn't bad enough, she tried to take my rights as a parent, claiming I mistreated you. How could she do that? Ashley said fiercely. Don't you need proof to make claims like that? He wiped his eyes. Well, she had some marks on her. That raised Ashley's eyebrows. Seeing her expression, Jake continued calmly. I could never confirm it, but I think either she got those marks while trying to help Kevin when I found them, or she did it to support her story. Jake looked at Ashley for her response. Her eyes narrowed, and he could see her thinking hard. When she stayed quiet, he added, "As for the accusations, you were influenced." That shocked her. "What?" Her reaction made him jump. He quickly looked around, remembering they were in his workplace. Luckily, it was almost empty. They were in that time between lunch and happy hour when food places tended to be quiet. He looked back at her, surprised by her anger. Yes, she had shown some anger before, but now she seemed furious. "What do you mean I was influenced?" she asked through her teeth. As gently as he could, he replied, "There's no easy way to say it. You were influenced. My mom got me out a few days later. I was served divorce papers immediately. There was also a protective order keeping me far from you, your mom, and the house. I was so shocked that I went straight to the house thinking it had to be wrong. I told myself, she wouldn't do this to me." The claims were hard to take, but the idea that she said I mistreated you almost destroyed me. Jake paused to see how Ashley was reacting. She seemed eager for him to go on, so he did. "When I got there, it was chaos. Kevin was there, and your mom was shouting all sorts of accusations. I wanted to see you, but they wouldn't let me, and soon the authorities were there, bringing me back into custody. Because I broke the protection order, I couldn't get bail and had to wait for my trial." "But how did that happen?" Ashley asked impatiently, looking for answers. "I'm getting to that, sweetie. It's easier for me to tell the story this way. Is that all right?" He wanted to finish quickly because it still hurt to talk about it. Ashley nodded. "Now, where was I?" Jake asked, taking a moment to remember. "Oh, yes. My lawyer told me to take a plea deal. Honestly, I wasn't worried about the assault charge because I knew I was guilty. I had some tough times. It was the other charges that worried me. So I accepted the deal, getting a 6-month sentence and a fine. I could have faced a year in jail, but the judge was understanding. Money was tight. Your mom and Kevin had spent my savings. Thankfully, my lawyer helped me, even with my low payment." "Did you think about fighting the divorce?" Ashley asked. Jake shook his head. "No. When she was unfaithful, our marriage ended. My focus was on you." Ashley smirked a bit, teasing him. Taking a sip of water, he continued. "While I was in custody, your mom kept pushing me to sign the divorce papers. But I refused to sign unless she agreed to share custody. When I got out, the judge said I could see you, but only with supervision." Jake paused, preparing for the question he knew was coming. He hoped she would take it well. In a gentle tone, he said, "You came in with a social worker, looked at me, and started to cry." Ashley looked shocked. But I don't remember that. You were not even 4 years old, sweetheart." Ashley's face turned upset, as if she felt responsible for what her mother did. He knew he needed to reassure her right away. "Ashley, please look at me." She looked up. "This isn't your fault, do you understand?" "But why don't I remember anything?" she asked quietly, her gaze dropping. Jake reached out and held her hand. "It's not your fault," he said firmly. "Do you get that? Your mother made those choices. We're both caught up in this." She raised her head, her lip quivering. After a moment, she nodded slowly, though he could sense her doubt. Ashley cleared her throat and said, "The last memory I have of you is before we moved. There was a red teddy bear. I remember feeling scared without knowing why. That was just after your 5th birthday. I remember it well," he said, lost in his thoughts. Probably one of the hardest moments ever. Bringing himself back, he continued, "After that first meeting, where you were scared, the social worker wrote about your feelings, and I feared I might lose you for good. I wasn't going to give up, so I asked my lawyer to get you evaluated by a specialist. Your mom didn't want that, but the judge allowed it. The expert noticed you had been influenced, but by that time you were really scared of me." Tears rolled down Ashley's face as she listened. Jake gently cupped her face, wiping her tears. He needed to comfort her. She was his little girl. "What happened next?" she asked carefully, as if ready for a tough answer. "Another 1.5 years of struggle," he replied simply. "We argued about you, money, everything. It felt strange. Looking at your mom during that time felt like looking at a stranger. She changed from the woman I loved into someone so angry." "You don't know what went wrong?" Ashley asked, her voice filled with disbelief. It seemed hard for her to understand her mother's actions. Jake recognized that feeling. "It's clear Kevin played a part in it. We knew each other, but something about him unsettled me. Until the day I saw them together, I had no clue. I felt foolish, he said, shaking his head. Taking a sip of water, Jake continued, his face serious. In short, even though I never hurt you, your mother convinced you against me so much that it was considered best for her to have full custody. But why? That's not fair. Yes, it wasn't fair. Unfortunately, mothers usually get custody in cases like this, and you were so frightened that they thought it was better if I didn't see you anymore. The last time I saw you was the day after your 5th birthday. I brought you a red teddy bear, hoping for a chance to reconnect. But the damage was done. You didn't want to be near me. Tears began to fall down his cheeks. A few days later, even though it broke my heart, I signed the divorce papers and lost you completely. A heavy silence filled the air between them. They sat quietly, tears on their faces, taking in what had just been said. Jake hadn't talked about these events in years. He thought about them sometimes, but going back through the story brought up many feelings. He had only confided in 2 people before, Garrett and his wife, who had supported him during his toughest times. But that was long ago. The thought of his wife made him smile. She would be surprised by Ashley's sudden visit. My wife. I need to return her call, remembering the missed call from earlier. He looked at Ashley, who seemed deep in thought. Ashley, he said softly. She came back to the moment, looking troubled. Are you okay? She shrugged slightly. I've been trying to understand, and you've helped, but it feels so unfair. Mom misled me for years, and I still don't know why. Jake sighed, feeling her pain. He understood her feelings all too well. I don't know what to say, dear. Your mother made her choices, but right now the important thing is that you're here. Ashley paused, taking a moment to consider his words. She wanted to know how he felt, and they both shared an unspoken issue that they had been avoiding. Jake's concerns were heavy, and Ashley's were significant too. What did she want? Was she looking to stay here? Was she ready to move on once she found the answers she sought? Did her mother know where she was? Did she ever get the letters he had sent? So many questions filled the air. Jake had a clear idea of what he wanted, but he wondered about Ashley's desires. He decided it was best to give them both some space. It can be tough for someone who feels wrong to sort through the mess of their feelings. Even though Jake hadn't dealt with the level of hurt Ashley had, he knew her past must have been hard. I think we should take a break, Jake said. I need some time to think, and it's okay if you want to step away for a bit too. Yeah, that sounds good. I need a moment too. All right, follow me. I'll show you where you can go. They both knew their conversation wasn't finished, and there was much left to discuss. But Jake didn't want to push. Ashley had already gone through a lot, and he wanted to be gentle. Still, he felt a strong desire to help her, even though he wasn't sure how yet. They walked toward the back of the room, pausing before continuing their talk. Once inside his office, Jake took out his cell phone, sat at his desk, and called his wife. Hi, love, Claire answered. Hey, how are you? He tried to sound calm, but she immediately sensed something was off. What's wrong? She asked, her concern clear. Jake smiled, knowing how well she could read him. I had an unexpected visitor today. Oh, who was it? He hesitated, realizing this would surprise her. Ashley. There was a moment of silence that made him wonder if the call had dropped. Ashley? Claire finally exclaimed, her voice filled with surprise. You mean the Ashley? Yes. Oh, wow. How did that happen? She just showed up. And it all happened like that? Her excitement made him grin. He knew how she'd react. I'll tell you the full story later, but I wanted to return your call. When you called earlier, we were in the middle of a conversation. But what did you talk about? Her anticipation was clear. What did she say? Did you mention the letters? Or your tattoo? Slow down a little, honey. He couldn't help but feel warmth for her. I promise to share everything later. That's not fair, Jake, she said playfully. I need to know. I can't believe it. At least give me some details. He laughed softly. She was excited and using that sweet tone that always won him over. He loved her for it. Okay, he agreed, deciding to give her a brief summary. Ashley came in. It took a while to recognize her, and we had a talk. But what did you talk about? He grinned at her eagerness. I shared my side of the story, but we didn't get to hers yet. He paused, thinking carefully about how to explain. But, he continued in a serious tone, it's clear she has been through a lot. Her clothes were messy, and even though she hasn't said it, I think she might be short on money. I was thinking I should offer, Claire gasped. She needs to come home with you. It was as if this was the only answer. We have to help her. Jake smiled. She was reading his mind. I know, I was about to say that. But the big question is, does she want to? Claire gasped again. You mean you haven't asked her yet? What were you thinking? Well, we haven't gotten that far. Then you need to go right over there and invite her. She's your daughter, and it's your job to support her. And don't take no for an answer. Jake was quiet for a moment. She was right, and he needed to stop putting it off. It was time to make a choice. Jake, Claire said, interrupting his thoughts. I'm here. I was just thinking, and you're right. I avoided talking about some things because I didn't want to upset her more. He paused, remembering how Ashley had looked. His eyes got a bit misty. It hurt me to see her struggling. Oh, Jake, Claire said gently. I'm sorry if I came on too strong. I didn't mean to. You're a good man and a good father. Just do what feels right and things will be okay. Jake wiped his eyes. I'm not upset with you. You're right. She is my daughter, and I will support her. I love you, dear. He could hear her care. Just make sure she knows she's welcome. We have plenty of space, and I want to meet her. I'll do my best. Good. What time will you be home? He asked, wanting to change the topic. A little after 5. And the kids? About 5:30. Okay, can you grab something to eat on your way home? Maybe Chinese or pizza? I'll pick up Chinese. Pizza's a little too far. Sounds good. I'll see you later. I love you. Oh, and please tell Ashley I'm excited to meet her. I will. Love you too, Jake said as he ended the call. When Jake left the office, he felt certain about his decision. He was going to follow Claire's advice. Ashley needed him, but there was one important thing they hadn't discussed. He needed his daughter too. Jake loved his stepchildren and could never replace them, but Ashley was different. He had lost her all those years ago, and now he had a real chance to connect with her again. Despite how good his life had become, there was always a piece missing. He wanted his little girl back and was determined to help her. As he approached the table, he smiled at the sight. Ashley and Sophie were laughing at something Garrett was saying. And then your dad looked over his shoulder with this confused look, not knowing why everyone was laughing. Garrett paused when he saw Jake. Jake recognized the story. He smiled and shook his head, remembering how embarrassing yet funny it had been. Garrett continued with a chuckle. Everyone stayed quiet for an hour, then a guy who had a bit too much to drink came up to your dad, patted him on the back, and said, "Hey, your shirt is stuck." Ashley and Sophie exploded with laughter again. Jake shook his head, amused. Leave it to Garrett to tell a funny story like that to his daughter. If he didn't know better, he might have found it annoying. But Jake understood that Garrett and Sophie were just trying to help Ashley feel included. He was lucky to have such good friends. And then, Garrett said, almost in tears from laughing, your dad reaches back, finds out— Okay, that's enough, Jake interrupted, a bit embarrassed. He tried to look serious, but Garrett's grin made it hard to hold back his own laughter. Seriously, you two, back to work. We'll be leaving soon, and happy hour is about to start. Garrett stood up. All right, we're going. He turned to Ashley. It was really nice to finally meet you. Yes, Sophie added as she gave Ashley a hug. We like to tease your dad, but he's a good guy. Don't forget that. Ashley hugged back. I won't. Thanks for everything, both of you. Sophie let go of Ashley, winked at Jake, and followed Garrett to the kitchen. They're really nice. I like them, Ashley said as she sat down. Jake smiled. Yeah, they are the best. Garrett has been with me since the start, and Sophie has been around almost 5 years. He added playfully, but they don't always know when to be quiet. Ashley chuckled, but then her expression turned serious. So, we're leaving soon? She asked, looking for confirmation about what he had mentioned to Garrett. Jake could tell what was on her mind, but she seemed unsure about it, so he decided to be open like Claire had advised. Taking a breath, he said, I just spoke to my wife. Ashley's eyes widened. Wife? It was clear she didn't know about his family, and worry flickered across her face. He needed to reassure her right away. Yes, her name is Claire and she really wants to meet you. That caught her by surprise. But why? She asked, her eyes filling with tears. Because she knows all about you. So do Kara and Carter. They would love to meet you. They would? She asked in disbelief. Yes, Claire said, tell Ashley I can't wait to meet her. So, will you come with me? He saw hope in her eyes. He added, and I really want you to come home, Ashley. There it was. He wanted his daughter back, but was it what she truly wanted? He noticed she recognized the word home. He wanted her to come home, and if there was ever any doubt in her mind, it was gone now. Holding his breath, he awaited her answer. She was silent for almost a minute. He could see her thinking hard. It lasted so long that he realized he had been holding his breath too. When he exhaled, it seemed to bring Ashley back to the moment. Her tear-filled eyes met his, and she softly said, "Okay." Then tears began to fall down her cheeks. Jake didn't think twice. He stood up and pulled his daughter into a big hug. This time, she didn't resist. She wrapped her arms around him tightly. He wondered if she remembered how it felt to be embraced like this. He couldn't picture anyone else holding her like he did. But that didn't matter now. His little girl was coming home where she belonged. Caught up in his feelings, he blurted out, "I love you." Ashley stiffened in his arms. He froze. Did he just ruin the moment? He felt frustrated with himself, but relaxed when she let out a sigh and melted back into him. He waited for her to say it back, but she didn't. He understood why, but it would have meant a lot to him to hear it. He reminded himself they had a lifetime to heal from the past. "Are you okay?" he asked, breaking the quiet. "Yeah. Let's get out of here and go home." Ashley pulled back, looked up at him, and nodded. Once he let her go, Jake was surprised to see Ashley reach under the table and pull out a small suitcase. He hadn't even noticed it was there. She met his surprised gaze and smiled shyly. Taking her hand, he led her through the room, nodding at a smiling Garrett, and out the back door to his truck. He tossed her suitcase in the back, helped her inside, and got into the driver's seat to head home. Jake couldn't remember being this happy before. There had always been something missing, but now that gap was filled. Everything felt right. He glanced over with a smile, only for it to vanish. Ashley looked anxious. He had gotten so lost in his happiness that he forgot she was stepping into something new. He knew his family would welcome her warmly, but she didn't seem convinced. He felt bad for not thinking about her feelings. Here he was, feeling great, while his daughter looked scared. He reached over and held her hand. She squeezed back, glanced at him, and managed a small smile, but the nervousness was still clear. He sighed and focused on the road, realizing they had a long way to go on this journey. "Wow," Ashley said with wide eyes as they pulled into the driveway. Jake smiled at her reaction. He felt proud of his home. "It's beautiful," Ashley murmured. Jake had to agree. He pressed a button above him, and the garage door opened on the large, beautiful house with 5 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms, its white exterior and dark orange roof tiles shining in the light. Once inside, Jake nudged a stunned Ashley. "Come on, let me show you around." She nodded, still taken aback. If Ashley was amazed by the outside, she was even more amazed by the inside. They entered the family room, which featured warm terracotta tiles and elegant furniture, along with a large TV. Jake couldn't help but smile. "Come on, follow me." After placing her bag on the floor, he guided Ashley through the house. He showed her the kitchen with its shiny counters and modern appliances. The dining room was nice too, with a handsome table and chairs. They even stopped in the formal living room, which they rarely used, before reaching Jake's favorite part, the backyard. Stepping outside, Ashley looked around in awe at the lovely pool, the patio, the grilling area, and the neat landscaping. "Wow," she said, genuinely impressed. Jake felt proud. Thanks to his bar and Claire's job at a construction company, they could afford such a nice home. Jake took care of it, spending his mornings working around the house, especially in the backyard. "Come on," he said. "Let's head back inside. I'll show you your room." Ashley stopped, surprised. "My room?" she asked carefully, as if she couldn't believe it. "Yes, you can have the spare room. It's perfect for you." Ashley nodded, still in disbelief. and followed Jake back into the house. He picked up her bag and led her to the front foyer and up the stairs. When he reached the top, he noticed Ashley wasn't behind him anymore. She had paused to look at family photos Claire had displayed along the wall. Placing her bag down, he joined her. She was focused on a picture of a petite woman with dirty blonde hair, a young girl about 9, and a younger Jake with a tattoo. "That picture was taken a couple of years after we were married," Jake said, causing Ashley to look at him with a thoughtful expression. He gently placed his arm around her, sensing what she might be thinking. As she gazed at the photo again, something caught her eye. She leaned in closer, trying to see a tattoo over Jake's heart. Though the picture was small, it was clear what it showed. It was a name. Her name. Ashley gasped, turned to face him, and looked straight into his eyes. Is that? "Yes," he replied quickly. "I have a tattoo of your name over my heart. I got it just before I remarried. Claire actually suggested it." He took her hand and placed it over his heart. Ashley was at a loss for words. That seemed to be happening a lot today. "Come on," he said. "Let me show you something else." Without waiting for a reply, he took her hand and led her to a photo at the top of the stairs. It showed a younger Jake smiling, holding a laughing little girl in a blue and purple dress. Jake watched as Ashley looked at the photo. He couldn't see her face well, but he noticed a tear rolling down her cheek. He put a comforting arm around her, and she leaned into him. It felt wonderful to be close to her. "This was taken on your 2nd birthday," he said softly. "It's one of the few pictures I have of you. I put it here so I can see it every morning when I come down." Ashley didn't answer. The silence stretched as she kept staring at the picture. Jake was starting to worry, but then she turned to him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Wiping her eyes, she said, "I'm sorry." That surprised Jake. He looked back, confused. "Sorry? For what? You have nothing to be sorry for." "Yes, I do. I thought the worst of you for so long, and now I see how wrong I was. When I watched you earlier, before you knew it was me, the picture in my head didn't match what I saw. You seemed so friendly and everyone liked you. You weren't how I imagined. Even after today, I still had some doubts. So I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. "Oh no, sweetheart," Jake said, wrapping her in a comforting hug. "It's not your fault. Please don't say that. It was your mother who caused this." "Shh," he repeated softly, stroking her back. As he held her, Jake thought back to their earlier conversation. He had tried to convince her she wasn't to blame, but it seemed she still did. It broke his heart to think she felt this way. "This is harder than I thought." Once her crying eased, he gently let her go. Picking up her bag, he said, "Let's get you settled in your room. And then I want to show you something." Ashley nodded and followed Jake down the hallway to the 2nd door on the right. He opened the door and went in, with Ashley following. She looked around at the lovely room. It had cream-colored walls, an off-white queen-sized bed, matching furniture, and a big chair in the corner. "Over here is the bathroom," he said, pointing to a door on the right. Ashley glanced inside and saw a nice bathroom filled with beauty products. She looked at Jake, puzzled. He smiled. "It's a shared bathroom, so you and Kara will use it together. Her room is through that door," he said, pointing to another door on the opposite wall. "And there's also the hallway bathroom for Carter." Ashley nodded. Jake walked back into the room and pointed to some double doors. "And over there is the closet. It's spacious. I know you value closet space." But then he noticed a look of embarrassment on Ashley's face. He glanced at the small suitcase on the floor and realized the reason she had it. It became clear to him now. "Come here, Ashley," said Jake, sitting on the bed. She walked over slowly and sat down, avoiding his gaze. He gently lifted her chin to meet his eyes. "You don't have to feel shy around me. You can talk to me about anything, okay?" She remained quiet. He pressed on. "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm here for you." Ashley looked away, staring at her suitcase. Tears filled her eyes and her lip began to tremble. Jake sensed she wanted to speak but struggled to find the words. He encouraged her gently. "It's all right. Just talk to me," he said, trying to convey that everything was going to be fine and that she was safe with him. After a moment, she nodded slightly, and then she started to express her feelings. "I need help. I don't know what to do. A week ago, I found out my mom wasn't honest with me. I needed to know the truth, and I looked you up. I don't have anything. All my things were taken, and I have no money. I feel alone. Please help me." Jake pulled her into another hug as she began to tremble, and her sobs filled the room. "It's okay, I'm here for you," he said reassuringly. His heart ached as he saw his little girl suffering. This was why he wanted to take everything slow. He couldn't remember the last time he had seen someone cry as much as Ashley had in the past hour. He wanted to ease her pain, but he didn't know how. So he did the only thing he could. He held her close. As her sobs slowly faded, he released her and grabbed some tissues from the nightstand. She took them and wiped her tears. Gently holding her face, he urged her to look at him and said, "Ashley, you're not alone. You have people who care about you. You have me, Claire, Kara, Carter, Garrett, Sophie. The list is long. Do you understand?" His voice was filled with warmth. Ashley looked at him but didn't seem convinced. He could see that accepting support from a group of people she barely knew was hard for her. It was clear her past hadn't provided her with much support. This idea was making her uneasy. It would take time for her to feel comfortable with this. He knew he could talk to her for ages, but words alone didn't matter. His family and friends would need to show her through their actions. In disbelief, she asked, "How can so many people who don't even know me want to help?" "That's what family does. Even if they don't know you well yet, you're still family, and family helps each other." He noticed her doubts. It was time to take a different approach. He stood up and took her hand. "Come on, follow me." He led her to his office across the hallway. Ashley's eyes widened at all the guitars hanging on the walls. Jake and Claire had simple tastes elsewhere, but when it came to guitars, Jake loved their unique styles, especially vintage ones. "Sit," Jake said. Ashley took a seat on the sofa across from his desk, which was placed between two windows. Sitting in his chair, he said, "I know it's hard to believe you have a support system. It may feel overwhelming, but it's true. You have a home here for as long as you want. You're important to me, and this is your home." He stressed the last part to make sure she understood. Seeing that his words still weren't registering, he decided to share more. He opened his bottom drawer and pulled out a manila folder filled with papers. He paused for a moment to collect his thoughts. He hoped what he was about to show her would help ease her worries. He opened the folder and pulled out a stack of sealed envelopes, all marked, "Return to sender." "Here," he said, handing them over. Ashley took the envelopes and looked through them one by one, noticing who they were for. He waited for her reaction, but it wasn't what he expected. "Ashley?" he asked, trying to understand. "That person?" she exclaimed. Jake was taken aback. Something was happening here, and he needed to understand. "Wait right here," she said before quickly leaving the room. She returned moments later with her suitcase. Seeing his puzzled look, she opened the bag and pulled out a pile of her own envelopes. Unlike his, these were already opened. "Here," she said, handing them to him. "I found these last week." Jake took the letters and recognized them immediately. They were the letters he had sent to Ashley over a span of 12 months long ago. He had hoped her mother would read them to her, understanding that she might not have, but it brought him some comfort to send them. In each letter, he expressed how much he missed her and that he loved her. Although he never received any replies, he kept sending them until one day the 13th letter came back marked, "Return to sender." After trying again, believing something was wrong, he eventually realized it was over. He remembered how sad that made him and how Claire helped him cope. "She kept these from me," Ashley said, breaking through Jake's thoughts. He looked up to see her visibly upset. "How did you get these?" he asked. Ashley looked down for a moment, took a deep breath, and when she looked up again, he saw a strong determination in her. It filled Jake with pride to see that strength in his daughter. She had faced so much but had a resilience that reminded him of himself. "About a week ago," she said, "we were evicted from our apartment." That hit Jake hard, but he stayed quiet as she spoke. "When I got home from school, all of our things were in the street. Most of it had been looked through. Many of my clothes were gone. Most of our furniture was missing too." She paused, a deep sadness in her eyes. Jake struggled to find the right words. He wanted to hear her story, though it might be painful for Ashley to share. He knew it was important for her healing. He had learned long ago that keeping things inside only made it worse. Continuing with a wince, she said, "Mom lost her job. She had a tough boss she didn't get along with. Though she never went into detail, she ultimately lost her job. Ashley had a part-time job too, but it wasn't enough to make ends meet. Her mother had downplayed how serious things were. When she came home on the last day of school, she was shocked to find their belongings on the curb and an eviction notice on the door. She started to sort through the things when— "Wait," Jake interrupted. Something was off. "What about Kevin? Doesn't he work?" Ashley looked confused for a moment before understanding dawned. It was clear from his expression that he was lost. Kevin left us years ago." This revelation shocked Jake. "What?" Ashley nodded. "Yeah. He left when I was 9. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. "After we moved north," Ashley went on, "we stayed with Kevin's uncle for a while. Mom got pregnant again and we needed more space." She paused, trying to remember the details about what she'd found out that day. Holding up the returned letters, she said, "That's probably when these came back." She was probably right. It made sense. That solved the mystery they had moved. He knew from his lawyer that they were with Kevin's uncle, but once the letters were returned, he didn't have the energy to find them again. But Kevin left after they had another child. Jake thought there was a chance they'd have more kids, but he didn't expect Kevin to leave so soon. Jake frowned. "That figures." Ashley frowned too. "Yeah." He could see she understood his feelings. "After what I found out today, it's not surprising he wouldn't stay. What was Mom thinking? How could someone be involved with another person's partner?" Her tone showed her anger, which made Jake smile a bit. Ashley smiled back. Despite the tough day, she was strong and he respected that. She reminded him of himself, proving that nature often wins over nurture. "Do you know where he went?" Jake asked. "No. After he left, Mom wouldn't talk about him. Every time I asked, she would get upset with me." No wonder Ashley felt like she had to take responsibility for her mother's choices. "So what happened after he left?" he asked gently. Even with her showing some fight, he could see she was worn out. "We had to move again. She couldn't pay for our apartment, so we went to a smaller one where I had to share a room with my brother. Things were hard for a while, but then she found a better job. Mom dated a bit, but never got serious with anyone else. We stayed in that apartment until we had to leave when I found the letters." Jake looked at her expectantly, encouraging her to go on. "I started going through things to see if I could keep anything. I found clothes and personal items. She seemed to get anxious as I went through a few boxes I had never seen before, and that's when I found the letters. I read them and realized she had hidden them from me all those years, so I wanted to find out the truth for myself." "Does your mom know that you found them?" "Yeah, I confronted her," she said angrily. "She denied everything. Even when I showed her the letters, she made excuses. I could see on her face that she wasn't being honest. She said it must have been Kevin. I know Kevin wouldn't have kept them. He didn't like you." Ashley was upset. "So I lost my cool and demanded the truth. We argued and said hurtful things. I told her to leave me alone and went to stay with a friend. I looked you up online, gave my notice at work, bought a bus ticket with my last paycheck, and came here to see if what I was told was true." She was breathing heavily by the time she finished. Jake didn't know what to say. He had imagined what her life was like, but now knowing the truth left him speechless. They sat quietly. He looked at Ashley and felt sadness for her. She looked completely worn out. "Did Kevin treat you okay?" he asked, needing to know for himself. The idea of Kevin being unkind to her made him uneasy. She shrugged weakly. "I guess. He made sure I knew he wasn't my real dad and didn't show me much care, but he didn't treat me badly either." She hesitated, looking for the right words. "It's okay," he encouraged. "Just say what you feel." Her lip quivered. She started to speak, but stopped. The silence hung between them. Just as Jake was about to urge her again, she finally said, "He always told me how awful you were, and I believed him. I'm sorry." Jake stood up and hugged Ashley tightly. He wanted to reassure her that she wasn't at fault. "It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You don't need to be sorry." He felt her tremble against him, but no tears came this time. It seemed she had finally run out of them. "But it is my fault," she said softly. "I should have known better. I listened to them and believed it." Jake felt anger rise toward those who had influenced her. He had been trying to keep his anger under control for her sake. But now that he knew the whole story, his frustration grew. Ashley blamed herself for what they had done to her, and he felt they deserved to be held accountable. Holding Ashley tightly, he felt a strong urge to confront his ex-wife and the person who had hurt their daughter. What they had done to her was unacceptable. He could feel himself shaking, overwhelmed by the unfairness of the situation. His emotions swirled inside him, but then Claire's calming voice echoed in his mind. "Take a deep breath. Don't let anger take over. I'm here for you. I care about you." He could almost feel her comforting presence as he tried to regain control of his feelings. Following her advice, he took a deep breath, and just like that, his frustration began to fade. He had learned that anger could destroy. It seeped into every part of life, causing harm in ways that were hard to see. He had allowed himself to get caught up in anger for nearly 2 years after signing the papers, but Claire was always there to help him find his way back. She showed him time and again that holding on to anger wouldn't do him or Ashley any good. He needed to stay calm. Losing control wouldn't help anyone. Back in the moment, he could still feel Ashley trembling in his arms. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "Please forgive me," she said quietly. He gently pulled back to meet her eyes. She looked worried. "There's nothing to forgive," he reassured her. "You didn't do anything wrong. Don't blame yourself." She looked into his eyes, wanting to believe him, but the guilt weighed heavily on her. She needed more time and some rest. He had intended to talk to her about the trust fund made for her, but that could wait for a better moment. Tomorrow would be a new day. "It's all right," he told himself. "But you know what?" She looked at him, intrigued. "The most important thing is that you're here. You're safe, and I promise I won't let anything bad happen to you," he said, affectionately touching her head and smiling. "And don't worry, we will get you new clothes. I'm sure Claire and Kara would love to take you shopping. They enjoy that sort of thing." Ashley was speechless, feeling overwhelmed. "How about we take a break for now?" he suggested softly. She nodded, looking relieved. "Come, let's get you settled," he said as he picked up her bag and led her down the hallway. "Why don't you relax for a while? Claire should be here in about an hour with dinner." Ashley nodded, then asked cautiously, "Could I take a shower?" "Of course, you don't need to ask. Let me show you where the towels are." Jake glanced at his watch. It was 5:16. He sat at the kitchen table, drink in hand, thinking about the day. It all felt strangely unreal. That morning he had woken up and gone to work as if it were a normal day. But his ordinary day had changed into something unexpected. What had happened? Was it a miracle? He wasn't a religious man, but he had said a prayer or maybe more over the years. Had those prayers been answered? That was beyond his understanding. He sighed, still in disbelief. Ashley, his little girl, was asleep upstairs in her new room. Tears of joy filled his eyes. As he wiped them away, he remembered the moment from about an hour ago. After leaving her to shower, he went to gather the rest of the documents he needed for her. He then called the bar to check on things and to let them know he wouldn't be in tomorrow. After that, he went to check on Ashley. Pressing his ear to the door, he didn't hear the shower. He knocked, but when there was no answer, he entered the room and found Ashley, freshly showered and fast asleep under the covers. He approached the bed quietly, looking at her peaceful face as he had done so many years before. He loved watching her sleep. She looked so serene. The sound of the garage door opening brought Jake back to reality. He looked up as Claire burst through the door, arms full of bags of Chinese food and an eager look on her face. "Where is she?" Claire asked, scanning the room. Jake smiled. "She's asleep." A moment of disappointment flashed on her face, quickly replaced with understanding. "I take it things were emotional?" Jake nodded. Claire set the bags down, moved next to him and wrapped her arms around his shoulders. Looking him in the eyes, she asked, "Well, what? What happened?" Now that was a loaded question. He closed his eyes, trying to choose his words. What had happened? It was difficult to explain. He needed. A gentle touch on his cheek pulled him back. Come back to me. He opened his eyes to see Claire's face close to his. They shared a moment of connection. When they pulled apart, Claire's loving smile made him feel like the luckiest man alive. So, what happened? She asked again. He frowned. They really hurt her. She feels guilty, and nothing I say can change that. Anger bubbled up again. I don't know what to do. Claire's voice was calming. Take a breath. Don't let the anger take over. Don't let it win. Her words were real this time, not just in his head. Feeling his frustration melt away, he chuckled. He cared deeply for her. What's so funny? She asked, smiling. Nothing, just thinking. But what really matters is how we can help her. I'm at a loss. That's simple. Simple? He replied, surprised. Yes, simple. We support and love her. It will take time, but she will come around. She paused, then added, and therapy could help too. Therapy? Yes, therapy. I know you're not a fan, but it's not that I'm against it. It's just, I understand. But remember how stubborn you were when we first met? You wouldn't accept help from anyone, not even me. I had to keep encouraging you to let me in. And when you did, things turned out well. She looked at him expectantly. Didn't they? Jake thought for a moment. Everyone had urged him to go to therapy, but he had preferred to handle things alone. In the beginning, he had resisted help, including Claire's, but she wouldn't give up. Finally, he had let her in. Was he letting his stubbornness stop him again? With Claire's support, he felt he didn't need therapy. She was enough for him. He did learn, however, that sometimes it's okay to accept help from others. She was right. Things turned out better than he hoped. You're right, he said, smiling at her. Claire pulled back, returning his smile. I know I am. Jake laughed lightly. We'll consider therapy for her, but only if she wants it. That sounds good, but we might have to encourage her a bit. She can be as stubborn as her father, Claire said with a knowing look. He chuckled again. Sure, but I don't think she has health insurance. We didn't talk about it much, but I doubt she has any. I'll check with Joan at work to add her to the family plan. Great, and there's something else. She lost all her clothes, so I told her you and Kara would take her shopping. Claire gasped. Oh, the poor girl, of course we will. We'll get her everything she needs. Kara will jump at the chance to go shopping. Speaking of Kara, how do you think the kids will feel about it? Oh my gosh. They'll love her, especially Kara. She's always wanted a sister. And Carter, he's easygoing. He'll just roll with it. Jake smiled. That's what I was thinking. Do you think we should offer her the same deal we did for Kara and Carter? Absolutely, she said, as if it were obvious. You told her about the trust fund, right? Not yet. I was planning to, but... He trailed off, unsure. Oh, don't worry, everything will be all right. Her reassuring smile comforted him. He couldn't imagine what he'd do without her. Just then, they heard the garage door open. Jake turned to see Kara come in, her dirty blonde hair in a ponytail. Oh, good! Chinese food! I'm so hungry! I'm heading upstairs to... Kara started, but stopped as she noticed something was off. What's wrong? Did something happen? Jake looked at Claire, asking her if he should tell Kara. She nodded. Clearing his throat, he turned to Kara. I had an unexpected visitor today. Who? Ashley. Ashley? She asked, still confused. The Ashley, Claire added. Kara's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, you mean... He nodded slowly. Oh, wow, really? Yes. Kara looked around as if expecting to see Ashley. Where is she? She's sleeping upstairs. Are you serious? How? What happened? Jake chuckled gently. Yes, I'm serious. I'll tell you everything at dinner. Kara nodded, still stunned. Let me set the table, Claire said as she stood up. Have you heard from Carter? She asked Kara. Kara paused, still processing everything. Oh, yeah. I talked to him like 10 minutes ago. He's stuck in traffic. He'll be home in a minute. Good. Then Kara, who Jake affectionately called his little chatterbox, threw her arms around him and exclaimed, Oh my gosh, Dad, I can't believe it. This is like the best news ever. I'm so happy. What's she like? What does she look like? Where has she been? Jake chuckled as she rambled on. He glanced at Claire, who was also smiling at Kara's excitement. Any worries he had about how his family would welcome Ashley quickly faded. But he still wondered how Ashley would adjust to everything. Jake's phone buzzed, interrupting his yard work. Wiping his hands on his shirt, he checked his text from Claire. It said, "Finished shopping. Be home in 10. She's so sweet." Jake smiled, feeling grateful for her positive message. He replied, "Sounds good. See you soon." He chose to do some work in the yard while the girls shopped, needing the time to think. The simple task of yard work helped clear his mind. The events from the previous day were finally sinking in, and he began to see things in a new light, some good and some challenging. On the bright side, he looked forward to building a relationship with Ashley. It would probably be difficult at first, but he felt hopeful. It was mostly Claire's positivity shining through. She had already made plans for Ashley's arrival into the family. Just the night before, she had listed ideas as if she had been thinking about it for a long time. She suggested things he had been considering too, and together they formed a plan. But really, it was all Claire. However, he realized he might have to contact his ex-wife. While he worked, one question kept nagging him. Why did his ex do what she did? He had given up looking for answers years ago. He had learned to accept it, not that he had much choice, but now, his daughter was hurting, and he would do anything to help her, even if it meant facing his ex. A saying came to mind. A real man puts those he loves before himself. If it came to that, he would do it. He would need to discuss it with Claire. What surprised him were his feelings towards Kevin, his ex-wife's new partner. After he signed the papers, Jake wanted to confront him, but he learned not to dwell on it. Kevin wasn't worth his time or energy. Now, he could find him if he wanted, but he had no desire to do so. He shook his head and smiled. Claire really had changed him. In the past, he would have let anger take control, but not anymore. He had a wonderful life, which had just become even better with the return of his daughter, and he wasn't going to risk it for the past. He might have felt defeated before, but now he was determined to move ahead. He didn't want to go back to the difficult life he once had. Just thinking about it sent a chill down his spine. Collecting his tools, Jake took one last look at the mulch bed. Happy that it was just right, he walked around to the side of the house to put the tools back in the shed. When he returned to the house, he washed his hands in the kitchen sink, then reached into the refrigerator for a bottle of water. He sat down at the kitchen table, took a sip, and closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Could it really have only been yesterday that all this happened? He could hardly believe it. So much had changed in such a short time. It still seemed unreal. Then he remembered the dinner from the night before. He could see Carter's shocked face when he heard the news. Claire and Kara had tearful expressions as Jake shared all that Ashley had been through. He felt relieved when they all came together and promised to support her as a family. "No matter what it takes," Claire had said. Afterward, Carter went about his business, just going with the flow, but Kara was bursting with excitement. At one point, she even suggested they wake Ashley up. She really wanted to meet her. "I can't believe I have an older sister," she kept saying. When Jake pointed out that Ashley was only 2 months older, Kara rolled her eyes and replied, "Semantics, Dad." Jake couldn't help but laugh. His thoughts drifted to that morning. Jake had woken up earlier than usual. He didn't want Ashley to wake up to a silent house. Thankfully, he did. While he was in his office, he heard sounds from her room around 6 o'clock. He knocked gently on her door. Even though she had slept for 14 hours and should have felt rested, she still looked weary. She was definitely nervous. Jake tried everything he could think of to help her feel at ease. It took the arrival of Claire and Kara, along with plenty of hugs, to finally calm her down. Claire and Kara quickly took Ashley under their wing, making her feel at home. By the time they got to the breakfast table, Jake's little chatterbox had gotten Ashley to laugh a bit, even if she was still a little uncertain. It was clear she wasn't used to a warm family environment. Carter also made an effort to welcome Ashley. He promised to take her out and show her all the fun places to hang out. Throughout it all, Claire was amazing. She took control of everything and even made omelets Ashley's favorite after expertly getting her to share that detail. Jake, Claire, and Kara all decided to take the day off from work. However, Carter couldn't. Once he left, Claire and Kara began to plan a shopping trip while Ashley quietly sat, trying to take it all in. At one point, Jake put his arm around her, and to his surprise, she welcomed it. Claire and Kara noticed, and soon they were sharing a group hug. Remembering that moment made Jake smile. His phone buzzed, pulling him back to reality. He opened his eyes and checked his phone. Kara had sent him a message. "Pulling in now. Need help with the bags." Uh-oh, he thought with a grin. If Kara had her way, the mall trip could have been quite the adventure. When she turned 16 and started paying for her own clothes, except for the basics, she quickly learned how to budget. But when Mom or Dad gave her a little extra spending money, she took full advantage. When he stepped into the garage, he saw Claire's SUV pulling in. He wasn't surprised to see Claire and Kara smiling, but his heart lifted when he spotted Ashley. She was laughing. Claire got out of the driver's seat and gave Jake a quick kiss on the cheek, surprising him. "Get a room, you two," Kara joked, bringing them back to reality. Jake and Claire smiled at the girls. While Kara seemed used to her parents' playful moments, Ashley looked a little unsure. Kara laughed. "Don't worry, Ash. You'll get used to them. They act like teenagers." Ashley was speechless. "Okay, let's see what you brought back," Jake said, trying to stay upbeat. All three girls were silent. His eyes widened when he saw how many bags were in the trunk. There had to be at least a dozen, packed full, maybe more. "I'm sorry, I told them it was too much," Ashley blurted, noticing Jake's expression. Jake turned to her, surprised. She looked a bit shy. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm not upset, Kara shook her head. "Oh, ignore him," she said, grabbing a few bags. "He's just being a downer. He'll get over it." She walked inside, giving her parents a playful wink. Ashley, looking still a bit bashful, grabbed a few bags of her own and followed. Jake and Claire laughed, knowing that Kara was trying to lighten the mood. In many ways, she was just like her mother. Once the girls were inside, Jake asked, "Did you have a good time?" "Mm-hmm. She's so nice. She kept saying we were getting her too much," Claire replied. Jake chuckled. "It looks like you bought out the entire mall." "Only half," she joked. "We got everything she needs." "Good. So what did you girls talk about?" Claire smiled. "Just stuff." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Stuff? What kind of stuff?" He was curious about what she meant. "What kind of stuff?" "Just stuff, but," she said, changing the subject, "there's this little worry about her. We could help her feel more comfortable, but then she'd pull back again after a while." Jake frowned. He expected this, but it still hurt to hear it. If how she acted at breakfast was any sign, it would take longer than a day for her to trust the new people around her. Claire gently held his face with her hands. "Don't worry. We will support her. Remember, we will do whatever is necessary." Jake nodded in agreement. "Come on," she said. "Grab the bags and let's go inside. It's time to get things sorted." She was right. He sighed, picked up the remaining bags, and followed her into the house. "So, are you going to tell me what you discussed?" he asked. Claire turned, smiling softly. Once they got to the kitchen, Jake set the bags down, but the girls were nowhere to be found. "Where did they go?" he asked. "Probably upstairs," Claire replied. "I'll go get them." Jake walked to the foot of the stairs and called out, "Girls, come down, we need to talk." "We'll be down shortly," came Kara's muffled voice. Returning to the kitchen, Jake saw Claire going through the shopping bags. She eventually pulled out a nice brown shirt and handed it to him. "Look at this. We thought you might like it." Without Claire and Kara, he would likely wear the same few outfits repeatedly. They enjoyed picking out clothes for him, and he had learned to appreciate their style. "Do you like it?" asked Claire. "I do," he answered. "Good. Ashley chose it." Jake raised his eyebrows in surprise. Claire laughed. "We wanted to get you something nice, so we asked her to pick." Jake smiled. "Come here." Claire stepped into his embrace for a moment. To him, Claire was the most wonderful person. She had a warm heart and always thought of others. He knew she was trying to make Ashley feel included, which he appreciated. "Oh, come on, you two," came Kara's voice. "What did I say? You're acting like teenagers." Jake and Claire turned to the girls. Kara grinned, and Ashley surprisingly had a smile, too. It was small, but much better than before. Jake thought Kara must be encouraging her. He and Claire were often affectionate, and while it didn't bother Kara and Carter, it might be awkward for Ashley since she was not used to that kind of behavior. Claire stepped back from Jake. "Sit down, girls. We have some things to discuss." Did you like the shirt, Dad? Kara asked as they all settled. He looked at Ashley. I really do. Thank you both. Ashley blushed slightly. Great. Ash picked it out, Kara said with a grin, but I guess Mom already told you that. She did. Kara looked at Ashley. See? I told you he would like it. Ashley nodded. Did you enjoy shopping, sweetie? Jake asked. Yeah, Ashley said shyly. But nobody has ever bought me this much before. I'm not sure how to thank you. He replied with a smile, We're happy to do this. It's our job to support you. But that brings me to another point. He paused, looking at Claire. She nodded, encouraging him to continue. He turned back to Ashley. Just so you know, this isn't how it will always be. Ashley looked puzzled, so he explained further. Claire and I discussed how we want to support you, just like we do with Kara and Carter. In this house, we believe kids should learn to take care of themselves by the time they're 16. But don't worry, Claire added. As parents, we'll still provide you with food, a place to stay, and what you need for school. That stuff is on us. Oh, I can manage, Ashley quickly said. I've been on my own for a while. I got my first job at 14. I won't impose on you. Jake was caught off guard. She didn't want to be a burden. He needed to clarify, but Claire spoke up first. You're not a burden, Ashley. We want to help you, so please don't feel that way. Ashley seemed uneasy, so Jake reassured her, Like I said yesterday, you are welcome here as long as you want. This is your home now. You will never be a burden. He added a smile for warmth. I was in the same boat when I was your age. I got my first job at 14, too. Ashley gave him a small smile in reply. Wow, that's interesting, Kara said, eyebrows raised. They all looked at her. That smile looks just like yours, Dad. Jake and Ashley exchanged amused glances, both recalling how Sophie noticed that very same thing yesterday. What's funny? Kara asked. Nothing, Jake and Ashley replied at the same time, both laughing. Kara rolled her eyes. Oh, no, Mom. It looks like we have another quirky one in the family. Claire laughed. But that's why we love him, right? You see the things I have to deal with, Ashley, Jake said, still smiling. Ashley met his gaze with a beaming smile. It warmed his heart to see her starting to open up. Don't worry, Kara said. We will win her over soon enough. Ashley giggled, and that laughter spread to Claire and Kara as well. But then Jake noticed that all three were sharing expressions he couldn't quite understand. Curious, he asked, What's happening? I think I'm missing something here? They just giggled louder until they were laughing out loud. Jake smiled and shook his head. It was clear they were sharing some secret joke. He turned to Claire. Let me guess. This is about what you talked about at the mall, right? She nodded, which made him chuckle. Uh-oh. Carter and I are definitely outnumbered. All right, ladies, Jake said in a playful tone. Let's settle down. We still have some things to discuss. Once their laughter faded, Claire said, Your dad's right. She looked at Jake. Where were we, dear? You were talking about the plan, Kara said, still softly giggling. Oh, right. He looked at Ashley. So we'll help you out, but you'll also need to handle certain things. A thought popped into his mind. Do you have your driver's license? Ashley nodded. Good. The same goes for getting a car. We can help you with a safe used car. But that's not fair, Kara interrupted. Carter and I had years to save for our share. Ashley hasn't had the same time. How can she share the cost? Maybe you... We understand, Claire said. That's why your dad and I have decided to cover the cost, and Ashley can pay us back over time. She turned to Ashley. Is that okay with you? Ashley stared wide-eyed. She was speechless. Jake noticed she seemed surprised that Kara was on her side. She looked at Kara with disbelief, and then she seemed to retreat inside herself. Jake felt a pinch in his heart. Just a few minutes ago she had opened up a bit, but now she looked uneasy. Kara, however, wasn't silent. Oh my gosh, that's amazing! We can go car shopping together and find something really cute, maybe a Jetta like mine, or a Honda hatchback. They look great. Or how about a Bug? I almost got one of those before choosing my Jetta. What do you think? I can't afford any of that, Ashley replied. It's all right, dear, Jake said. If you want, you can come work at the bar. You can earn good money waitressing or bartending. Ashley still looked wide-eyed. Is that what you want, Ashley? Claire asked. because we can help you find a job if you prefer something different. No, it's not that, Ashley said quickly. 2, this is just all too much. I don't know how to respond. You don't need to say anything, Jake said kindly. I know it's hard to accept, but we're here for you. Yeah, added Kara. We're family, and family supports each other. Claire nodded. Exactly. So what do you think? Jake asked. Ashley looked overwhelmed by everything happening. It was only going to get busier with what they needed to discuss next. She kept staring until finally she gave a slight nod. Thank you. You're welcome. He turned to Kara. So why don't you help her pick something and then we'll go buy it? Kara smiled. Sounds great. This is going to be so much fun. She stood up. Come on, Ash, let's go start looking. Jake raised a hand. Wait, we aren't finished yet. There are a few more things to cover. Kara sat back down, but she was too eager to stay still. But as Jake predicted, Ashley looked even more overwhelmed. There's more? She asked in disbelief. Yes, said Claire. She looked at Jake, and he nodded for her to continue. She turned back to Ashley. You'll also need car insurance. We'll help you get a policy, and we'll split that cost too. But you'll have to cover the gas. Ashley nodded. And we'll also get you a new cell phone and add you to our family plan, Jake added. You'll need to contribute every month. You should get the new iPhone 6 like me, Kara suggested. Once again, Ashley nodded. Now, Jake said, standing up, there's one last thing to discuss. He walked over to the drawer they called the junk drawer, opened it, and pulled out a manila folder. After Ashley had fallen asleep the night before, he had put it in the drawer for this moment. He returned to the table, sat down, and handed it to Ashley. Here. She reached out nervously and opened it. They all watched as she looked at the documents. Her eyes widened after a few moments. What? It's a trust fund, Jake said gently. She looked confused. A what? A trust fund. You see, years ago, he glanced at Claire, we set up trust funds for all 3 of you. 2 don't. She paused, struggling to find the words. A what? It's money for you to use for college or anything else you want, Jake explained. But there's some... I can't take this, Ashley said suddenly, tears welling up in her eyes. It's too much money, I've never... Again, she didn't know what to say. It's not too much, Claire reassured her. It's for your future. Your future is so important. But why? She cried out, tears streaming down her face. You didn't even know me. Why would you do this? I don't understand. Immediately, Jake, Claire, and Kara surrounded Ashley. Jake, being the tallest, ended up in the center holding Ashley with Claire and Kara close by. We might have gone a little too far. The night before, Jake had expressed his worry about overwhelming her too quickly. After seeing Ashley's tough time yesterday, he thought they should take their time. But Claire had suggested a more direct approach, like pulling off a Band-Aid quickly. Jake had hesitated at first, but Claire convinced him. She was better at sensing these things. Now he saw how Ashley was reacting to the news. Ashley's cries filled the room. Jake could feel her shaking in his arms. He wanted to say something to comfort her again, but it was Kara who broke the quiet. You know what, Ash? If you don't want the money, I'll take it. I could buy 500 pairs of jeans with $50,000. She said it so suddenly that no one spoke at first. They were all surprised. Then, to Jake's surprise, Ashley started laughing. Kara, Claire said in a scolding voice, which only made Ashley laugh harder. Kara leaned back with a playful smile. What? It worked. And she was right. It did work. Kara had done it again. Jake looked down at the giggling Ashley, and when their eyes met, he chuckled, which made Kara giggle too. Claire held back for a moment, but soon joined in as well. Just like that, the tension vanished. Ashley pulled back, wiped her eyes, and hugged Kara tightly. Thank you. Ashley wasn't foolish. She understood Kara's kind-hearted motives. Returning the hug, Kara said, Well, you are my big sister. Jake smiled, thinking back to the night before. Kara released the hug and gave Ashley a knowing look. So, about that money. Ashley let out a little snort. Okay, let's sit down again, Jake suggested, giving Ashley a gentle pat on the back. Once they were seated, Jake asked, Are you all right? Ashley picked up a napkin, dried her eyes, and shrugged. Her lower lip quivered a bit. I guess. I don't know what to say. Claire continued. What your dad wanted to explain is there's a rule. You can only use the money for college when you turn 18. If you don't, you'll have to wait until you're 25. The plan was to find you just before your 25th birthday and give you the money, no matter what. She said the last part with a knowing smile. Ashley was once again speechless, as if she couldn't understand everything happening. Jake couldn't read her thoughts, but he had an idea. Well, do you want to go to college? He asked. Instead of answering, Ashley shot Claire and Kara a look like before. Now in the loop, Jake turned to Claire. Let me guess. You talked about this while shopping, right? Claire smiled. Tell him, Ash, Kara urged eagerly. Jake looked around the table. Tell me what? I'm lost. Well, Ashley said, hesitating for a moment. She seemed nervous. You don't need to be nervous, said Claire. Just tell him. Ashley sighed. I've always wanted to be a teacher, but I never thought attending college was possible. Jake raised his eyebrows. He looked at Kara, who had a big grin. Kara was getting ready to start her first year at the local university in 2 months because she had always dreamed of being an elementary school teacher. Most students waited until their second year to pick a major, but Kara was sure from the start. But tell him the rest, Kara said, shaking with excitement. Now Jake was even more puzzled. What else? Ashley looked nervously at Kara and then Claire, who gave her a reassuring smile. She turned to Jake. Well, I've always wanted to be a music teacher. Jake's eyes widened. A music teacher? That must mean... She's a musician just like you, Dad, Kara said, thrilled. What? He couldn't believe it. Kara laughed. Tell him, Ash. Ashley smiled shyly. I play piano and guitar. And she sings too, added Kara. She sang in her high school choir and played piano in the orchestra. Jake was speechless. He had tried to teach his stepkids an instrument growing up, but they didn't have a knack for it. Carter selected the bass, and although he could play basic notes, he never took it seriously. Kara struggled with the guitar and eventually decided to stop, though she had a decent singing voice. But now... Earth to Dad, Kara said, breaking his thoughts. He turned his attention to Ashley and smiled widely. You play and sing? She nodded. He glanced at Claire and Kara, both beaming with joy. They certainly had plenty to talk about at the mall. Tell him how you learned, Ash, said Kara. Well, I first learned piano, then guitar. But how did you learn? He was still amazed. A kind couple, Mr. and Mrs. Ogilvy, taught me. They lived nearby and would watch us after school while my mom worked. Mrs. Ogilvy played piano and Mr. Ogilvy played guitar. How old were you? Ashley thought for a moment. 8 for piano and 10 for guitar. Wow, Jake said, which made Claire and Kara laugh. Ashley smiled a little. They were really nice. I would watch Mrs. Ogilvy play, and since I was interested, she decided to teach me. I caught on pretty quickly, but I didn't have a piano at home, so Mr. Ogilvy taught me guitar instead. He even bought me one from a shop for $50 so I could have my own. We agreed that I would help him with small jobs to pay him back. It took about 4 months to do so. She said this with pride, but then her expression changed. You see, Ashley, said Claire, I told you not to worry at the mall. Ashley nodded. Claire smiled. So it's settled then. We'll start looking for colleges. But as Claire kept speaking, Jake's mind drifted. His thoughts were racing from what he had just discovered. His daughter was a musician. She played the piano and guitar. He always wanted to learn the piano, but never did. He had never learned to read music either, which he regretted. He learned guitar by ear. Wait, Jake said, returning to the moment. He looked at Ashley. You can read music? She nodded. Wow. Claire chuckled at his reaction. Oh, don't feel bad, sweetie. She knew he wished he had learned to read music. Jay jealous? Ashley asked, looking confused. Oh, just forget him, Claire said. He's just playing around. She leaned in and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek. He'll be just fine. Jake laughed. He really cared for her. Yeah, Kara said. He'll be fine. But shouldn't we get back to what we need to do? She was starting to feel impatient. Claire nodded. Yes, let's. Call Rob and see what he can do, she suggested. Jake frowned. Rob? Weren't you paying attention? Kara sighed. You know, the keyboard player in your band. Oh, right, thanks. I know Rob is my band's keyboardist, but why? He was still lost. Claire shook her head and laughed. You should call Rob and ask if he can help Ashley get into the music program. Oh, Jake said, a smile spreading as he realized. Rob was the head of the music school at the local university Kara was planning to attend. Now he gets it, Kara said with a grin. Ashley giggled. Okay, give me a break here, Jake said, and everyone at the table laughed. His heart warmed at seeing Ashley come out of her shell again. However, it worried him when she retreated into herself during tough moments. Claire was right. They all needed to connect, and he sensed Kara might be the one to help with that. She'll make a great teacher, he thought. Well, then it's decided, Claire said. Talk to Rob and see what he can do. Jake nodded. I'll handle it. Wait, Kara said. She cleared her throat and shared a knowing glance with her mom. Jake felt confused again, wondering if they had discussed something else at the mall. He looked at Ashley, who seemed just as puzzled. Claire nodded at Kara, then spoke. All right, we're set. Why don't you two go upstairs and help Ashley get settled? Kara jumped up. Okay. She picked up a bunch of bags. Let's go, Ash. We've got so much to do. See you later. Ashley stood, smiled shyly at Jake and Claire, grabbed the remaining bags and followed Kara out of the kitchen. What was that about? Jake asked. Claire took a seat on Jake's lap, leaning closer with a gentle smile. Kara was hinting at something Ashley mentioned while we were shopping. Then her face turned serious. Did you notice how her mood changed when she talked about the guitar that nice old man gave her? Jake nodded. Well, she said it was stolen along with a keyboard she bought, plus all her other things. Oh, no. Yeah, so, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Claire smiled at him warmly. So, Jake asked, curious, is there anything else you two talked about while shopping that I should know? Oh, just a few things, Claire replied lightly. His brow furrowed. What do you mean? Oh, you know girl talk. He chuckled. Oh, Claire smiled again. Well, that went better than I thought. Jake sighed. She was right. It did go better than expected. All thanks to Kara. I know. I'm really proud of her. She's turning into a wonderful young woman. Jake agreed with a nod. But you were right about Ashley, Claire said. He frowned. Huh? About Ashley feeling responsible. Jake winced. Claire placed her hands on his cheeks. Don't worry. Everything will work out. I know. I just wish there was more we could do. We'll figure something out. Then he realized there was something he could do about it. He just wasn't sure how it would go. Reflecting on the thoughts he had while working outside, he said, I have an idea. Claire's eyebrows lifted. Oh? Yeah. He paused, took a breath, and looked straight into her eyes. He asked, What do you think about me reaching out to my ex? As Jake went up the stairs, he expected to hear the sounds of chatter, but found it strangely quiet. He was ready for more laughter and conversation that had filled the house all day. After the girls had gone upstairs to help Ashley, Jake and Claire stayed in the kitchen. When he brought up contacting his ex, he was surprised she hadn't opposed it. She believed it might help Ashley, but suggested waiting until it was truly necessary. Apart from that, she didn't say much, which seemed unusual. She also agreed with his view on Kevin. He really wasn't worth their time. The laughter of two 18-year-olds echoed from upstairs, occasionally interrupted by Ashley's cheerful giggle, which made them smile. Once Ashley was settled, the girls decided to try out their new swimwear. The four of them enjoyed the rest of the afternoon swimming and having fun together. When Ashley first saw a tattoo on his chest, they shared a touching moment, but Kara smoothly changed the topic, lightening the mood again. Jake was eager to ask Ashley about her music preferences, which delightfully surprised him. While Kara and Carter liked the newest trends that he didn't fully understand, Ashley loved singer-songwriters from the 60s and 70s, his favorites too. When she started naming artists like Joni Mitchell and James Taylor, Jake was moved almost to tears. Kara found this hilarious and playfully teased him, knowing it would help Ashley relax. When Carter returned home, Jake prepared dinner with steaks, corn, and asparagus to show Ashley what a real family meal was like. She felt a bit uneasy at first, But once again, Kara was there to support her. Overall, it went well. When Jake reached the top of the stairs, he turned right towards the kids' rooms. He stopped first at Carter's door and knocked. "Come in," came Carter's voice. Jake opened the door and found Carter at his desk, focused on his laptop. "Hey, buddy," Jake said. "What's up, Dad?" "Not much, just checking in on you." Carter pointed at the screen. "Facebook." Jake sat on the edge of Carter's bed. "So what do you think about this new thing with Ashley?" Carter turned around in his chair. "I think it's pretty cool." "Yeah, me too. And it's awesome that she's a musician as well." "It really is." Just then, a sound came from Carter's laptop, causing him to look back at the screen. He read a message and frowned. "What's wrong?" Jake asked. Carter began typing again. "Ugh," he said, somewhat distracted. When he finished, he turned back to Jake. "Everything okay?" Jake asked. "Sabrina's being a bit annoying again," Carter replied, speaking of his girlfriend. "I told you to be careful, but you didn't want to hear it." Carter smirked. "Okay, fine, you were right. Want a prize or something?" Jake laughed. "You smart Alec." He stood up and headed for the door. "I'm going to check on your sisters. Good luck." "Wait!" Carter exclaimed. Jake turned back. "What?" "It just hit me when you said that. I have 2 sisters now." He thought for a moment and shrugged. "Well, I guess it's just you and me then, huh?" "Yeah. We need to support each other, buddy," Jake said with a wink. Carter's computer pinged again, so Jake let him handle it. In the hallway, Jake chuckled. Carter was such a good kid, going with the flow like he always did. I love that kid. Next, he went to Kara's room. Her door was slightly open, so he knocked. When no one answered, he peeked inside. The room was empty, but he could hear the shower running. It made sense why it was quiet. Jake moved on to Ashley's room and knocked. A few moments later, Ashley, looking fresh and dressed comfortably, opened the door. "Hi, sweetheart. Just checking in on you." Ashley smiled shyly. "Oh, I'm good. Can I come in for a bit?" She nodded. Jake stepped inside and looked around. The room looked much different from the day before. It felt lived in. The dresser was filled with new items, clothes were scattered on the bed and chair, and a few posters were on the wall. It was no longer just an empty room. "I hope you don't mind that we put up the posters," Ashley said. "We bought them, and Claire said it was fine. Kara and I hung them." Jake walked closer to a poster of Joni Mitchell. When he turned back, Ashley seemed a little embarrassed. "I don't mind at all. This is your room now. You can decorate it however you like." She smiled and nodded. Jake glanced at the clothes again. "Did you get everything you need?" She looked around and nodded. "I think we got way too much. I kept telling Claire and Kara, but they insisted." Jake chuckled. "One thing you'll learn about the women in my life is that they love to shop. Don't worry, you'll adjust." Ashley grinned, but then her expression shifted. "I've never been very close with my brother. He's much younger and can be a handful." Her face brightened. "But it's nice to have someone like Kara around. She's really funny and Carter is so sweet. But Claire is." She paused, searching for the right word. "Amazing," Jake suggested. He felt lucky to have Claire in his life. She was truly remarkable. Ashley nodded. "Yeah, amazing." Jake smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. We're happy to have you here." She smiled, but then seemed to have something important on her mind. Do you mind if I ask you something?" "Of course. You can ask me anything." She looked a bit hesitant. "Well, it's about the trust fund." Jake sat down on the bed. "Oh. Well, She looked down for a moment, then met his gaze. "Why?" It was a simple question, but carried a lot of weight. "Come here," he said, patting the space next to him on the bed. Ashley moved over, shifted a dress aside, and sat down. Turning to her, he said, "We wanted you to have the best future possible." "But you didn't know me," she replied. He sighed, realizing he needed to explain again. "It doesn't matter. You are my daughter. When my business started doing well, we decided to ensure that all of your futures were secure." Her lip quivered. "But I don't understand." He sighed again, sensing her struggle to accept that he had been thinking about her all these years. "You don't feel you deserve it, right?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. He wanted to clear up this misunderstanding. He took her hand. "You do deserve it. I know it's hard to grasp, but it's true. The money is for your future. Even though we didn't know you, we planned to find you when you turned 25 and make sure you got the money. Even if you didn't want anything to do with me, you would still receive it." He wasn't lying. When he and Claire set up the trust years ago, they asked their lawyer to reach out to Ashley on her 25th birthday, no matter what. He remembered thinking that even though he hadn't raised her, he could at least give her something. It made him feel good to know she might have a brighter future. They thought about giving her the money at 18, but they worried about his ex and Kevin possibly interfering. So they settled on 25, the age Kara and Carter would have received their money if they didn't go to college. Ashley was speechless. Seeing her expression, he asked, "What are you thinking? Why 25? Well, we believe an 18-year-old isn't always ready for that much money. By 25, most people have a better sense of responsibility. If it wasn't for college, then 25 is the age we chose." Ashley sighed and nodded slightly. "Thank you. It's more than I ever dreamed of. I still can't believe this is real." She looked around the room. "I never thought I would live in such a beautiful house. I always wanted to go to college, but my mom never supported me. She said it would be a waste of time, so I didn't think it would happen." She looked up, serious. "I promise I won't let you down. I'll make you proud." "Oh, sweetheart," he said, pulling her into a warm hug. "I'm already proud of you." "You are?" Her voice was muffled against him. "Of course," he said softly. She pulled back, looking up with doubt. He could tell she found it hard to believe. He felt a wave of frustration about the past. He had wished they had removed all the heavy burdens his ex had placed on Ashley. At that moment, he had to agree with Claire therapy might be in Ashley's future. But would she be open to it? To lift her spirits, he smiled. "Well, it helps that you're a musician. You play guitar and piano, sing and read music. What's not to be proud of?" His grin became playful. "You know what? I might be just a little envious." His heart soared when he heard her giggle. Then, to his surprise, Ashley leaned in and hugged him. He was so shocked at first that he froze, but then he hugged her back. Yes, she was hugging me on her own. He couldn't believe it. For so long, he'd been the one to start the hugs. "I love you," he said softly. Ashley flinched. She pulled back, looking up at him, surprised. He waited, hoping she would say it back, but she didn't. "Give it time." He pulled back. "I'm glad you're doing okay." She smiled shyly. "Just make sure if you need anything, you ask." She nodded. They continued to look at each other in a quiet moment. As the silence grew a bit awkward, Jake glanced at the poster on the wall, stood up, and walked over. He had seen this image before, but not like this. It showed Joni sitting and holding her guitar. It was a pencil drawing, giving it a different feel, and he liked it. Ashley came up next to him. He saw her looking at the poster, too. She turned to him and smiled, which he returned. "What's your favorite song?" he asked, nodding toward the poster. Her face scrunched in thought. That's a hard one." "Yeah, it is." He wasn't kidding. It was tough to pick a favorite Joni Mitchell song. "Well, it's not Woodstock," she said. "It's a great song, but it's kind of played a lot." He chuckled. "Well, that settles it." Ashley looked confused. "There's no doubt now that you're my daughter." He put his arm around her. "Anyone who says Woodstock is their favorite song isn't a true fan." Ashley laughed. "I know, right? It's a beautiful song, but there are better ones like Chelsea Morning, Cactus Tree, My Old Man, and Blue." She paused, then added, "If I had to pick, I'd say My Old Man or Blue are my favorites to play on piano, but Cactus Tree is my favorite on guitar." Jake's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "You can play Cactus Tree?" Yeah." "On guitar?" "Mm-hmm." "While singing?" "Yeah." That took him aback. He looked at her. "You can fingerpick?" She nodded proudly. "Wow." He was surprised. Cactus Tree isn't a hard song, but it has open D tuning, and fingerpicking, along with Joni's vocals, makes it challenging. At 38, he was an experienced musician, but it took him years to reach a level where he could perform a song like Cactus Tree the way he wanted. Yet Ashley was only 18. He needed to see this. He took her hand. "Follow me," he said, leading her into his office across the hall. Time for some quality time together. Claire turned her white Ford Explorer onto her street. After her weekly Saturday grocery shopping, she drove down the street to her driveway, passing Kara's black car and Ashley's blue one parked along the curb. She parked her car in the garage next to Jake's silver truck. Carter's gray Jeep was not there because he was at work. As she turned off the engine, she was about to open the driver's door when her phone rang. She looked at the screen and saw an unknown number. Guessing who it might be, she answered the call. "Hello?" She recognized the voice right away. It had a unique accent. "Yes," Claire said. "I've been waiting for your call. Thanks for getting back to me." She listened to what the caller said and smiled. "Good. It took a bit longer than I thought, but you came through as promised." As the caller spoke, she nodded and said, "Hold on, let me grab something to write with." She opened the console and took out a napkin and a pen. "Okay." She noted down what the caller shared. "Got it," she said. Listening again, she wrote down more information. "No, that's all for now." The caller spoke again. "I'll send it to you," she responded. Nodding as she listened, she added, "Sounds great. Thanks again. Bye." After ending the call, she put her phone in her purse, smiling with satisfaction. She had waited 3 weeks for this call. Tucking the napkin in her pocket for safekeeping, she got out of the car, grabbed some grocery bags, and walked into the house. Immediately, she heard music from the living room piano and guitar, along with singing. She smiled. They're at it again. Her eyebrows raised as she recognized the song, "Tiny Dancer." I loved that song. She set the grocery bags on the kitchen island and started singing along as she went back to grab the rest of the bags. By the time she brought in the last of the groceries, the song had finished. "That was awesome!" came Kara's excited voice. "Play something else." Claire smiled. It was wonderful. She was always amazed by how talented Jake and Ashley were. As she opened the refrigerator to put away the eggs, they started another song. Oh. Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters. Must be an Elton John day at their house. Ashley began playing piano while singing. Claire felt chills as she listened to her beautiful voice. After a while, Jake joined in with his guitar, harmonizing with Ashley. It sent more chills down her spine. Every time she heard her husband sing, it reminded her of when she first fell in love with him. Listening to them always made her smile. She recalled the first time she heard Ashley sing. It was the night of a big shopping trip. She was heading upstairs to get ready for bed when the music caught her ear. Intrigued, she walked toward the music room and found Jake and Ashley playing You Can Close Your Eyes, surrounded by a wide-eyed Kara and Carter. Instead of James playing guitar and Joni singing, both Jake and Ashley were on guitar. The guitar playing was lovely, but their singing captivated her. Ashley's voice resonated deeply, and with Jake's voice joining in, she was enchanted. When the song ended, she realized she had tears in her eyes, but what made it even more special was the proud look on her husband's face. What surprised her most was the guitar Ashley was playing. Claire didn't know much about guitars, but this one stood out because it was a Martin guitar, sharing their last name. It was Jake's favorite, and he rarely let anyone handle it. She remembered him excitedly talking about a special retro guitar being remade a few years ago. It was around $2,500. While many would disapprove of spending so much on a guitar, Claire didn't mind. If that was his only hobby, she was okay with it, especially since they could afford it. To her surprise, Jake gave Ashley the guitar that night. She hesitated at first, but Jake said, "It's for all the birthdays I missed. It's yours. Take care of it." So, for the past 6 months, music filled their home. In fact, it no longer felt like a formal living room. Since they bought Ashley a grand piano too large to move upstairs, it was now known as the piano room. Claire had initially been against losing the formal space, but Kara had made a good point. When was the last time you used it? After reflecting, Claire realized it had been years. So it became the piano room. She continued putting groceries away, humming along. A single song later, Rocket Man, she was done. Kara's excited voice and applause filled the air again. "Oh my gosh, that was amazing! You should have her come up and perform tonight." Claire heard Jake talking but couldn't catch his words. Kara seemed displeased with his response. "I'll cover for her. It'll only take 5 minutes. No one will mind." Jake said something else she couldn't hear. "Please," Kara replied, her voice filled with hope. "That was incredible. People need to hear it. You need to call Jordan and ask him to come over. Kara, Ashley said, her voice sounding both serious and a bit funny. Jake and Kara laughed, which made Claire chuckle too. Oh, Ashley, Claire whispered to herself. You could do much better than a nice guy like Jordan. The talk continued, but Claire couldn't hear what they were saying, so she decided to join them. As she left the kitchen, she noticed it was 2:13. Oh no, it's getting late. These girls need to prepare for work. When Claire entered the piano room, she could catch bits of the conversation. But he would be really impressed, Kara said. A shy-looking Ashley replied, What if he doesn't like it? He might think it's not good. Kara rolled her eyes. Come on, he has to like it. You're incredible, Ash. You're just being silly. At that moment, Jake, who was sitting with a guitar, noticed Claire standing there. He smiled and nodded toward the girls. Claire returned the smile. She knew what he meant. The two girls were very close. When Kara said she always wanted a sister, she truly meant it. They did everything together. Kara was studying full-time and working part-time at a bar to save money, while Ashley worked full-time as a bartender and prepared for the SATs. She had impressed Rob with her musical skills, and he promised her a spot in the music program in the fall as long as she passed the SATs. Ashley crossed her arms. But Dad said it was fine, Kara said. Jake held up his hands. Hey, don't involve me. I said Ashley could do whatever she wants. You should go for it, Claire said, making the girls turn towards her. Jordan would be silly to think you weren't amazing, and if he thought otherwise. She made air quotes, and Kara laughed. Then he isn't worth your time. Kara beamed. See, Ash? Mom agrees. You should do it. Ashley's expression looked worried. After a moment, she asked Jake, So, do you really think I should? He nodded. Absolutely. You're too talented to keep it to yourself. Ashley was quiet and looked around the room first at Claire, then at Kara, and finally back at Jake. Claire held her breath. She was afraid Ashley might pull back, but to her surprise and relief, Ashley smiled a little nervously and said, Okay, I'll do it. Claire sighed in relief. Thank goodness, therapy seems to be helping. Yay! Kara cheered, jumping up to hug Ashley. This is going to be so great. Claire and Jake both grinned. Kara pulled away. What song will you do? You should try Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's, Claire suggested. The version she just heard was beautiful. Kara was right. People needed to hear it. Ashley looked at Jake, and when he nodded, she said, Okay. Kara clapped excitedly. Well, girls, Claire said, don't you think you should start getting ready? It's after 2, and your shift starts at 3. Kara's eyes widened. Oh, we lost track of time. She got up and looked at Ashley. We better hurry. Then she grinned. And if you won't call Jordan, I will. Ashley sighed. Fine, I'll call him. Kara laughed, hugged Jake, and ran out of the room. Ashley stood up to follow Kara, but paused and hugged Jake, too. Thanks, Dad. Claire smiled at the scene before her. After letting go of Jake, Ashley started to leave, but Claire stopped her. You're going to do great. Don't worry. Ashley nodded and hugged Claire. Thanks, Claire. Claire hugged back and said, You're welcome, sweetie. Breaking the hug, Ashley gave Claire and Jake a big smile before following Kara upstairs. Claire walked over to Jake, took the guitar from him, sat on his lap, and grinned. That's the 7th hug she's given me. Jake laughed. You're counting? Of course. And don't say you haven't noticed she's been calling you Dad more often. He chuckled again. All right, you caught me. I have noticed, but I haven't been counting. She playfully hit his shoulder. Oh, come on. Who was it that mentioned calling you Dad every night for months? She gave him a teasing look. Jake pretended to be innocent, but couldn't maintain it. At least I haven't been keeping score like someone I know. Claire smiled, but then her expression turned serious. I was a bit worried for a while, but therapy seems to be working. Jake sighed. Yeah, but we still have a long road ahead. She still feels guilty and gets upset sometimes. He paused, then frowned. I still think I should call my ex. Claire touched her pocket absent-mindedly. I know, but only when the time is right. This was a topic they had discussed many times, but Claire's answer never changed. She could see Jake wanted to do everything to help Ashley, even if it would be hard for him, but she had her own thoughts about it. Let's give therapy a bit more time and see how things go. It seems to be finally helping. Then she smiled. Did you see how she caught herself a few minutes ago? I thought she was going to pull back. Jake nodded. I noticed. I'm relieved, but I was really worried when she was so stubborn at the start. Yeah, must run in the family, Claire said lightly. Jake raised his eyebrows. What was that? Nothing. I'll give you nothing, he said, playfully poking her sides. Claire squealed with laughter. Stop it, you mean man! Claire exclaimed, knowing how ticklish she was, but he just kept going. What was that? He asked again. Stop it! She squirmed, trying to get up, but he held her down. All right, I'll tell you. He withdrew his hands, but kept them poised for another round of teasing. Claire looked into his eyes, which sparkled with warmth. He tried to stay serious, but a smile broke through. So, what were you saying? He prompted. Claire giggled. I was talking about her father. He's a wonderful man, and I love him very much. Oh, is that what you said? Yes. Well, if that's the case... But he didn't finish. Claire leaned in and gave him a quick kiss, enjoying the warmth of his arms around her. It felt good. When they pulled apart, she smiled. I'm so glad she's feeling better. Me too. But whatever you did to change her mind about therapy, wow, it worked. I can't believe you managed to do that. I tried so hard, but... He trailed off, but Claire understood what he meant. She beamed. I just did it for her father. Jake raised his eyebrows. Oh, really? And what exactly did you do? Sorry, that's a secret. Anticipating his next move, she quickly stood up, but he playfully reached for her again. She dodged him and laughed. Hey, get back here, he called after her. Nope. Sorry, I've got things to do, and you need to prepare to leave. Don't worry, this isn't over. You can't run forever. Still laughing, she went to the kitchen. She loved him endlessly. He was truly amazing, and every day she felt grateful to have him in her life. He always said she saved him, but she felt he had saved her too. After her ex-husband left with their 2 small kids, she felt so tired, even at just 24. Meeting Jake, who had his own challenges, intrigued her. She made it her mission to reach out to him. It wasn't easy, but when she did, she was amazed by his kindness. She wondered how anyone could be unkind to someone like him. He was everything she had ever hoped for. Not only was he very handsome, but he also had a big heart and treated her as if she was the only person in the world. Plus, he had a wonderful singing voice. She'd never met anyone who didn't melt a little when a charming person sang for them. What really won her over, though, was how great he was with her kids. Right then and there, she knew he was the one. In the kitchen, she began organizing the pantry. The kids, especially Carter, never put things back in order. She moved a bag of pretzels and marshmallows, but when she grabbed a bag of salt and vinegar chips, Ashley's favorite, she paused. Looking around the pantry, she noticed some new items that had recently made their way onto her shelves. She smiled. Yes, Ashley's arrival had brought changes to her family, both big and small. The kitchen held reminders of Ashley everywhere. Her sweatshirt on a chair, a note for Ashley's next appointment on the corkboard, and a pair of Ashley's sneakers near the patio doors. She was truly part of the family now, even if it was a gradual process. After giving the pantry one last check, Claire closed the door and headed into the family room. She glanced around and saw Ashley's belongings mixed among the usual mess of teen life. Moving through the room, she spotted Ashley's laptop on the end table. Picking it up, she shook her head. She really resisted this laptop. After a couple of weeks, they decided to buy her one. Just like everything else, she protested, but when they insisted, she finally relented. She argued it was too much and that she couldn't accept anything else. But nothing they said made a difference, not even Kara's encouragement. So, saying she was stubborn would be putting it mildly. Eventually, Ashley agreed after Rob promised her a place in the music program. She needed the laptop for that, so she accepted it. But her stubbornness didn't end there. She clearly needed to go to therapy. At first, her concerns were small and understandable. It took her some time to feel comfortable grabbing a snack without asking, and even longer to express what food she liked. But after about 2.5 months, Ashley's feelings of guilt and frustration began to take over. Some days she was fully engaged with the family, but other times she would shut herself in her room, strumming her guitar, wanting to be alone. They realized that no matter how much love and support they showed her, it wouldn't be enough. Professional help was needed. When they first suggested therapy, Ashley outright refused. So they tried to find ways to help her see the need. By the second month, the weight of her feelings seemed heavier. They all encouraged her, but she stood her ground. Claire noticed that Ashley's struggles began to affect Jake, too. Since Ashley returned, Claire could see remnants of Jake's past surfacing. After certain conversations, she noticed him becoming distant. She would gently bring him back to the moment, but these instances were happening more often. Claire knew she had to do something. The question was how. She wasn't going to let this situation upset their family life. This idea helped Claire carefully manage her relationship with Ashley. Father and daughter shared many common interests, especially their love for music. There were moments when Ashley would say or do something that took Claire by surprise. Even though they didn't look alike other than their eyes, they had similar gestures, expressions, and ways of communicating. The most important similarity was how they both dealt with tough situations, which reminded Claire of how Jake used to handle things. Because of this, Claire worked hard to protect her family, finding unexpected help from Kara. If Ashley and Jake were alike, Claire also shared a strong connection with Kara. Sometimes Claire would focus on Jake, while Kara would care for Ashley. To their surprise, Kara and Carter were very supportive and didn't feel left out when Ashley needed extra attention. They understood and were ready to help however they could. After 3 months, Claire finally encouraged Ashley to attend therapy. When Jake asked her how she did it, she would smile and jokingly say she had special powers. The truth was, she used the same approach she had with him: patience and consistency. Having been through a similar situation herself, she understood that trust was crucial to rebuild. Throughout her own journey, she made sure never to break Jake's trust. He tested her a few times, but she stayed strong, and over time that trust grew into love. She described it as her circle of love. It took time, but it worked. With Ashley, she stayed just as persistent, and progress was made eventually. In the 7 weeks since Ashley began therapy, there had been improvements, although many challenges still lay ahead. Claire didn't know how long it would take, but she felt hopeful about what she had seen so far. An unexpected result of Ashley's therapy was how it also helped her husband. Seeing Ashley finally finding her way brought him comfort. He had his own ways of coping, like playing music, but in the end, they all came together as a family and did what needed to be done. The biggest question remained: why did she do it? As a mother, Claire could never treat her children the way Ashley was treated. When Jake first mentioned reaching out, Claire knew it was likely necessary but worried about how it would affect him. He had come so far, and she didn't want him to regress. The fact that he was willing to make the call made her love him even more. He was the kind of man who would do anything for the people he cared about. But for the sake of her family, Claire chose to carry the burden on her own. She had to. Even though he was willing, she understood it could affect him in ways she couldn't foresee. She couldn't risk that. He was her everything, and like him, she would do anything for those she loved. 3 weeks ago, Claire took the biggest but most necessary step in her plan. She contacted a private investigator to find Ashley, and today, when she received the phone call, her plan could finally begin. Setting her laptop aside, Claire looked around the family room. Her eyes fell on the clock showing 2:26. She touched the napkin in her pocket. All she needed to do was wait for everyone to leave. The house was quiet. Everyone had gone, and Claire was finally alone. She walked into the kitchen, nervously patting her pocket. It was time. Yet she hesitated, feeling guilty about doing this without her husband's knowledge. She had never acted without talking it over with him first. But her mind was made up. I'm doing this to protect my family. It has to be done. Now wasn't the time to turn back. Sitting at the kitchen table, Claire pulled out the napkin and laid it on the table. Looking at the name and number, she took a deep breath. Here we go. Taking out her cell phone, she dialed the number. It rang once, twice, and then a third time. She winced as the fourth ring began. She had prepared for the chance it might go to voicemail. It wasn't what she wanted, but it would be okay for now. The fourth ring ended. Just as she expected voicemail to pick up, she was surprised to hear a cautious, "Hello?" Claire took a deep breath and, trying to stay calm, said, "Hello, am I speaking to Gina?" "Yes, who is calling?" Claire's heart raced. She was actually speaking to her. She didn't know what to expect, but Gina sounded ordinary. For some reason, Claire had imagined her voice would match the troubling picture she had in her mind. "Hello," Gina said again, breaking Claire's train of thought. "Yes, I'm sorry, I'm calling about Ashley." Silence followed. Claire thought the call had ended until Gina responded sharply. "What? Who is this?" "My name is Claire, and I'm calling about Ashley. Are you her mother?" "You bet I am. Who are you?" "My name is Claire. I know you already said that, but who are you?" Gathering her courage, Claire said, "I'm Jake's wife." There was a pause, then, "What? What do you—" Then the line went quiet again. Once more, Claire thought she had lost the connection until she heard, "So that's where she went. That ungrateful little. After everything I did for her, she leaves me and goes to him. Let me tell you something, lady. You tell that— Now, hold on a second." Claire reminded herself to keep calm. She was calling for answers to help her family, and she needed to be careful. Being too forceful might cause Gina to hang up. Taking a deep breath, she said, "First, can we keep this friendly? No need to insult each other. That person just left me when I needed her. You tell her how disappointed I am. Wait, I want to tell her myself. Put her on the phone." Claire took another deep breath. She felt the urge to share her frustration and call out the disappointment, but that wouldn't help. Claire needed to guide this conversation in a way that would support her family. Instead, she asked, "Do you care about your daughter?" The question seemed to surprise her because there was a pause before she answered. Finally, she said, "What? Of course I do. She's my daughter. If you care about her, you'll answer some questions I have." "What? What do you mean?" "Ashley is really hurting and is—" "What?" "Put her on the phone. She owes me an explanation for what she did." Claire ignored her. She needed to keep the conversation going. If she knew Ashley wasn't home, she would probably hang up. So Claire continued, "Ashley is struggling a lot and needs answers. She needs answers. I need some answers too. Why did that ungrateful girl just leave me when I needed her most?" Here's the reaction I expected. Claire wanted to call her out, but someone had to act maturely. So she replied calmly, "I understand your feelings, but as mothers, we should think about our children first." "Don't you think so?" "What are you talking about? I always put my children first. I won't sit here and listen to you lecture me about being a mother." Claire shook her head, stunned. This woman actually thought she was a good mother. Frustration bubbled up inside Claire, but she had to stay focused. "This is for my family." Before Claire could respond, the woman said, "If you aren't going to put her on the phone, then I don't know why I'm listening to this. I have nothing to say to you, but tell that child to call me immediately. She owes me an explanation." Now Claire was feeling really frustrated, which was unusual for her. She rarely lost her cool. "Please don't talk about Ashley like that," she said firmly. "She's a sweet girl who's hurting and just wants to know the truth. It's the least you can do for her." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, so you didn't mislead Ashley?" I didn't mislead her," she replied, but her voice held a hint of something Claire couldn't quite identify. Was it guilt? Yes, it was guilt. Maybe she isn't as bad as I thought. Seizing the opportunity, Claire pressed on. "So you didn't tell her about what happened with her father?" What? She stammered, then fell silent. Claire could tell she hadn't hung up since she could still hear soft breaths. "Ashley feels responsible for what happened, you know," Claire continued. "If you could see her now, you might feel differently. For Ashley's sake, if you truly care about her, please tell me the truth. She's such a sweet girl and doesn't deserve this. If you love her, please help her." But But Claire was determined. "And as mothers, we should always think of our children first. Sometimes we feel we must hide the truth, believing it protects them. But our kids depend on us to guide them and—" "Please stop," she said softly, voice shaking. Claire sighed, relieved to finally connect with her. As a mother, she knew that love was universal, even if some mothers made mistakes. Claire pressed on. "So what happened?" Silence filled the air. Claire waited, unsure what to say, when she heard quiet sobbing. "Kevin?" Claire prompted gently. "Why, Yes. He made me do it. Claire felt like saying, "Tell me something I don't know." But she held back and said, "I see. But that doesn't explain why you misled her. I understand wanting to separate from Jake, but why the dishonesty?" Softly, she replied, "My kids were all I had. I couldn't bear to lose them." "But don't you think that was unfair to Ashley? If only you could see how she feels." She blames herself. "Oh, God!" she sobbed. I never wanted this. After Kevin left, they were all I had. I'm sorry for hurting her. That wasn't my intention." She didn't mean for it to happen? What did she think would happen instead? Claire shook her head. "But why did you lie about Jake? That was Kevin's idea. He convinced me to think Jake was unfaithful. He told me he still cared about me and that we could start fresh. He wanted to be a father to Ashley, but said I needed to create a story to gain full custody." She believed Jake was unfaithful? That was new information. Claire shook her head again. It was exactly what Jake had suspected. Someone urged her to make false claims, but that didn't explain the depth of her actions. Or maybe it did? If she believed she was wronged, and you believed him, Claire said, making a statement rather than asking a question. Believed him? You believed Kevin when he said Jake had been unfaithful? Why wouldn't I? It seemed logical. Claire sighed, feeling frustrated and sympathetic at once. "I hate to say it, but Kevin deceived you. Jake was never unfaithful." "Yes, he was," she responded a bit defensively. Claire shook her head in disbelief. Here she was, facing the woman who had almost hurt Jake deeply, and for a moment she felt a bit of sympathy for her. But now, "He did me wrong," she continued. "Kevin was there for me, so we decided to teach Jake a lesson." Claire cut in. "Jake is a kind man. He would never—" "He did wrong me. Kevin told me." "And you believed him?" Claire asked, her frustration growing. "Was there any proof?" "No, but—" "And you still believed him? This is the same man who left you, even if you believed him back then." "But Kevin said he was—" "No." Claire started, but then stopped, reminding herself to stay calm. However, she felt the need to address the other woman's choices. Taking a deep breath, she decided to steer the conversation back on track. Just then, the woman spoke again, surprising Claire. Claire needed to focus. Throughout her marriage with Jake, they had disagreements like any couple, but they always handled their problems respectfully. She had never raised her voice around her children unless it was necessary. But this woman finally pushed her too far. What she said was, "While I'm sorry for what happened with Ashley, he got what he deserved. He didn't treat me right, and I made him pay the price. Kevin did right by me. I would do it all over again if I—" And that was the moment Claire lost it. "That's enough!" she yelled. "Don't you ever talk about she emphasized the word, "my husband like that again. Do you hear me? You're a disgrace. Only a despicable person would do that to someone." "How dare you!" the woman shouted back. But Claire pressed on. "Only a despicable person would do that to someone she claimed to love. But you know what? I want to thank you for letting Jake go. You don't deserve him, and don't worry. I'll be the mother Ashley deserves. You don't have to worry about her ever again. And just remember, what goes around comes around. Goodbye." Then she ended the call. Claire sat there breathing heavily. "That person," she finally hissed. "She was as bad as I thought." Claire clenched her fists and hit the table in frustration. "Darn her!" Taking a deep breath, Claire tried to calm down. She didn't like losing control, but that woman had pushed her too far. Nobody talked about her husband like that. She hit the table again in anger, then shook her head and sighed. "I need to calm down." Putting her face in her hands, Claire reflected on her thoughts. Yes, she lost her cool, but the real question was, did she achieve what she aimed for? She did learn something new. She believed Jake was unfaithful, but Claire knew that wasn't true. It was clear Kevin used that to hurt her. The fact that she believed him without proof revealed a lot about her. But would this new understanding help her family? Claire pondered this for a moment. Yes, she finally told herself, it could truly help. They knew why now, and her original reason for calling was to find out the truth. Maybe it would provide closure for both Jake and Ashley. Understanding was always important. But would that be enough? Claire thought about that. Would there ever be enough? She finally asked herself. But one question she didn't know the answer to was why she kept the letters. Her feelings about Jake didn't match her actions. If she really thought so poorly of him, she would have thrown those letters away immediately. Claire thought hard for a logical reason. The only answer she could come up with was that maybe deep down she felt guilty. Who knows, she thought. Trying to figure out the why was pointless. The important thing is Ashley found them and now she's here. That's all that matters. Continuing to gather her thoughts, Claire's mind wandered back over the rest of the conversation. It was surprising how Ashley had made her lose her composure. Nobody ever did that. Well, my ex did, she reminded herself, chuckling lightly. Exes and I don't seem to get along very well. Still, she hated losing her cool. She was an adult, not a teenager. But nobody talked about her husband that way. She chuckled again, feeling a strange satisfaction in the thought. And did Claire mean what she said? Was she thankful she let Jake go? Yes, I am. But did that make her selfish? If she was honest with herself, she probably was, but for the right reasons. Jake had gone through a terrible time, something that almost broke him so they could meet and fall in love. Did she regret that? Claire thought about it for a moment, but the answer came quickly. No, I don't regret it. I love him too much. He's my soulmate, and I don't know where I'd be without him. Claire also meant what she said about being the mother Ashley deserves. Ashley might never call her mom, but she was okay with that. Claire nodded with determination, then said aloud, I'm going to be the best mother I can be to her. Taking one last deep breath, she stood up and looked around her kitchen, taking it all in. She smiled at what she saw. This was the home she built with her husband for their family, which now included Ashley. I'm a very lucky woman, she said out loud. Turning to check the time on the microwave 5:04, Claire realized how late it was getting. She needed to get ready. Jake was expecting her at the bar at 6:30 so they could have dinner together before he got busy with the evening's preparations. For a moment, she thought about telling him about the call during dinner. She felt tempted, but chose not to go that route. I will talk to him tonight. Let's make the most of the evening. Would he be upset that she kept it from him? No. They trusted each other completely. He might feel a bit annoyed at first, but he would understand her reasons. She learned that from him because he always put the needs of his loved ones first. Then she smiled. Tonight was going to be enjoyable. She was excited about Jake and Ashley's big moment. And Robin Garrett's wife would be there too. Claire always had a good time when there was wine, music, and Robin around. After looking around one last time, Claire decided to set aside her worries for now. But she knew some challenges were still ahead. Ashley had a lot to face, yet Claire remained hopeful. She didn't give up when Jake needed her support before, and she wouldn't give up now. She was determined to do everything possible to keep her family together. But the final question was, would the bonds ever truly be rebuilt? Probably not, but that's how life goes.